Oh, Emerald Child, there's no need to be mild. You were raised to behave, but you were born to be wild. Yannick, don't panic, Fazzle's on the way. Leeway's sliding through the ranks, and he's here to stay. Legacy of see you dancing in the emerald bed. Winds of fate shall catch your stare. Change is coming through the Nichibotsu. It's nature now, no one yet supposes. But don't fear now the threat it poses, 'cause everybody's ready for the rain of roses. Audio coming in. A hot start. Alright. And here we are.
Let's go.
Hello, and welcome to the Rain of Roses. You join us in the year of the Serene Rains 396, on the 2nd of June, the day after a brutal battle. The city of Gatoch is gathered to mourn. The dead from war have mounted, arriving as they have from the fields and the foreign further frays. There is not enough Teichstein to engrave all of the spirit tablets that would be needed for regular burials, and we cannot take time to import them. And so it has been summoned, a grand meeting of the priests and the shrine keepers and the people come here to mourn. The crimson water lily, placed with one reed shunted with oil and burned as an offering in votive remembrance of the dead. And around all the temple's agents, the monks, the paladin Sohai, the priests chanting and weaving their magics, and in the center of it all, on a boat amidst the flaming lilies, is Daichi on a small boat. As the crowd bumps and, offering me a promotion, are you, sterile seaman? I'm afraid that I'm going to have to sterilize you one last time. So
how could you not take him up on that offer? Come on.
Who doesn't want to be famous? I think you'll find, young Yannick, that there's I'm not wasting that line drop yet, but there's a season for fame. All right, so you're gathered together. One of the Sohai comes close and says, my good Herzog, everything is in place. The spirits are ready to be laid to rest. He gesticulates and says, with this formation, nothing is going to cause a problem. And Vio kind of cocks a brow, so they say, forgive me for my ignorance, but are we expecting an issue? There are a lot of spirits and souls here. I confess I am ignorant to the particularities of your religion. He says, of course. Allow me to share with you then the common faith. He gesticulates and says, the souls will be sent on to the far sky, and the spirits committed to the Soronetto. And with the passing of their soul, their spirit will be rammed in, as if there were a great stake against all evil. However, in this vulnerable time when they are sent to the next world, their souls put onto the far sky and their spirits committed to the Soronetto, there is a danger. A great demon could be attracted by this sort of thing, if they could find some way to slip through the bonds we have erected. And so it is that we have created a great sphere of commitment. And in the center is our glorious new prelate, the bold Daichi. And you see your brother there in priestly robe, with his blade at his side, and he kneels in prayer. And as he kneels in prayer, you begin to see in the red smoke of the lilies, the dancing of the dead. You see the souls and spirits of those who have passed, of warriors who have run. The mourners are gathered and they place their lilies in the water. Everyone has come to mourn the dead. You have had your burial for your father. But in the red smoke, you see one last glint of a friendly pair of glasses as the face of Spez passes, as Daichi begins to raise his chant in his arms, and all the priests and priestesses ram their staffs home, and dancing on the River Gweth, the river where you won your great triumphant battle of return, when first the traitors thought to throw you from your own shores. This place you have conquered in life, you said now, you're dead, on to the next world along it. As the wind and the waves move, and the lilies are swept out to the mouth of the River Gweth and into Rosa Bay, you commit them to the next world as the spirits and souls move on. There is a wailing and gnashing of teeth, laughter, joy, sorrow, fists strike the dirt. You stand here on the stone pier, a witness to the suffering of your realm. It is June 2nd. Yesterday, you put Yukishige Watano where his body would never be found. Exterminated a roach. And Li Wei stood at your side. Dealt the finishing blow to a man who threatened to upend all of this order and seize in vainglory and treasonous derision the flame you hold, the flame you feel as both of you feel a kindling spark within. The flame burns. And you see Kakame no To at the edge. A lighthouse. A temple. A lighthouse of the soul. That is the tower now that your brother is committed to. And you across the way at Three Hill in your own, where you were both raised. The ceremony goes without issue. And people begin to filter away. And as they do so, the Sohai does turn to you and say, I am glad that the common faith has shown that we stand with tradition. And Vio says, a tradition they have, and given to understand the election was spectacular. He says, oh yes, unanimous. And a man so young, he says to Yannick. You guys can roll an insight or a religion here to pick up what they're laying down. Or you get the feeling that Vio is going to lay down what he's learned in his short time here afterwards.
Okay. You said religion or insight?
Yep, your choice. Our boys.
All right.
Well, he nods. Fazl puts down a flower and says, "What?" And the forces assembled. They trickle out, and you see Daichi rides on that boat away. He raises his head to look at the spirits and the souls. He always had an expressive face, but he looks cold. It reminds you of the day he came home from his task. You had dealt with the sawmill, and he with a devil. And Sohai looks at him proudly and says, "He is an inspiration to us all. He trained with me. You know, when I first went and committed, fourth son of a Ritter, joined and gave that all up to become a holy warrior. It's amazing to see him there now. He's our man." He looks at you, Anakin says, "Devil killer." And Yannick, what the ceremony is ending, and all of the officiants are beginning their parade out. The time of obligation is past. Some will linger yet. Perhaps they will light more lily reeds. Perhaps they will stay and pray. But the public ceremony that you've been here for, as the Herzog, circlet on your head, is over.
I think it would be time to go see Daichi, given the look upon him. He should be he shouldn't have that appearance about him. I understand that this is a terrible time for the realm, but it's also a time of victory, and we have done our duty by seeing people forward. We are still cleaving to tradition. There shouldn't be this despair or anger upon him, and that idea that as soon as he was like, oh yeah, remember how you went to this? I'm like, fuck, that's right. He went and fought a demon, and it still kind of clung to him a little bit whenever he came home.
Yeah.
So I have a worry that this might be, given the nature of this ritual and the possibility for there to be some breach on that level, right? What better way for a demon to come through than a quiet, slow, nefarious behind the scenes appearance than to pop up in a puff of smoke in front of everybody.
Indeed. And so you have that inkling, and you if you tell VO or any I guess the question is, do you think that you would just stroll, you I'm gonna go where he is, and I'm gonna go into the temple, and then we're gonna have a talk there? Or are you thinking let's invite him to the castle and have the talk here?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would think that I would invite him to the castle because I believe Mother would like to see him.
Yeah, alright. Han von Ham steps up and he says, and there's sort of someone else blows the horn. Because Han von Ham, you see a huge scar down his neck, took an arrow to the windpipe and barely survived on the field of silver and gold. He remains your loyal troubadour and herald, although he may be nearing retirement, as his voice gives out. And yeah, as you guys walk and talk, Vio senses your desire, and he says, "My liege, as your master of letters, I could arrange to have your brother invited. You can understand there'll be a temple meeting after this, but I'm sure he'll be right over. He has been eager to get back to the castle, as his duties call him as prelate."
Please make it so. I appreciate you stepping forward and having the initiative to see my wishes.
Of course. And he walks. It's the three of you, right? And I have a question, Yannick. Have you announced any? Actually, you haven't had time to make any further announcements. But Liwei, you and Yannick are feeling very bonded.
Right.
Like brothers, if you will. And Vio says, "I'll send the letter at once, and your lady mother shall of course be informed." And this is a small bow, but as you guys are walking and you have guards, but they're far away, he does lean in and says, "One more thing, my liege. I have been asking around all of the watering holes and gathering what I can of the splintered networks Fez left behind. It should seem that your brother's election was, well, not to beat around the bush, decidedly political. You see, during the time when there was question of what would happen with your absence, with Shinnainak dead, it was time to elect a new prelate. Normally this would go to a very senior member of the clergy. The prelate is chief priest of the province, runs the most important temple, and is liaison to the state. By electing Daichi, although they did reaffirm that he was of their world and not yours, it was perceived to be a pro-Emerald move, and given to understand the traitors practically had Templetown under siege, and there were not a few back-alley bruisings between the Sohai and the traitors, Ritters, as they attempted to press in on them.
Have they recovered from the burden that they bear during that time?
They have. The traitors did not dare move too openly against them. To strike at the common faith and violate neutrality is an invitation for imperial inquest and execution. But they have. Your brother also deployed several temple assets in what one could debatably call a less than neutral way to ensure your mother had a smokescreen to escape, and in his attempted withdrawal of Svez from the field. my late predecessor took the offer, but then chose to use it as a smokescreen to continue organizing the resistance to the very last.
I will keep this in mind.
He nods.
It is good for the faith to remain neutral, but I will consider this.
Of course, my liege. I do not mean to invite you to say too much. That is, of course, what letters are for. And he bows and says, "And I shall now make as my peacock namesake and flash my feathers and see what I can find. There are many meetings to be held in the hall, but go, speak with your brother." And he peels off. It's just Li Wei and Yannick, and a lot of people are dead. Thankfully, Li Wei, war did not come to your home street because nobody really thought to fight for Underbridge just because of how near things were. But when you went and reconnected with Aiko and your parents, they do tell you that like there were men watching the houses at night, and they could tell that if you reemerged, there was like a standing order to take them hostage.
Oh.
And Bois, he didn't quite pick up on all that, but he did say he got a weird vibe. So you're a little frazzled in that, a lot of people dear to you came close to being executed hostages. And, you and Yannick have just witnessed this big ceremony for the send-off of the souls and spirits that fly into the sky and disappear into nothingness. Would you two say anything, or do you guys think you, share a silence on the way home? This is the day after the battle, by the way. This is June 2nd.
During this, I would be mostly silent. There's a lot to think about, and sometimes introspection introspection is an important note, especially with grieving, because all of these people are, whether it was my fault or not, all of these people were my responsibility, and I bear that burden along with Li Wei, whether he realizes it or not.
Right. I'd say Li Wei would definitely take Yannick's cue here, as far as just seeing the ceremony, seeing the ritual, seeing the dead, and also being a bit more somber at the fact that his family and friends might have been in danger. Thankfully weren't, but they could have been amongst these people here who lie dead, their souls being sent on. And so, Li Wei would be quiet as well.
You share a somber silence, and you proceed home to the room of your mother. On the way, when she hears that you are coming, when she knows that you're coming, she is meeting with someone who has been staying a while at your court, and you emerge into her room to find her in the company of this woman. Why does the line of sight not work when I'm this is very funny. The line of sight works right to the DM, but not the players here. Okay, so Yannick, this is a woman named Hasarma Rumu, and she is nursing a pretty major leg wound, and she's got a crutch with her. She was one of the Gazku Band of Honor, one of the 60 who were at court and volunteered to come and fight to keep the rightful heir on the throne against this illegal banditry that was happening against him by treachers. She suffered a huge wound going over the wall, clattering into Watano's men and into Halfteef's men. And she survived because she is tough. She lost a lot of blood, but she held on. They patched her up, and she couldn't return with the Band of Honor when they were headed out, which is I'm realizing I fucked up the time a little. Point is, she's hanging around for a little bit. She's hanging around for a little bit because You know, people look at that and they're like, that's not, like, it's not even super advisable that she be riding in a cart right now, you know what I mean? Like, that shit needs to, like, heal and then needs to be broken again to set. Yeah, so she's not in a good way, but she's in good spirits. She hasn't had a slow beat to her since. And she stands falteringly and, but, steadies herself on the table and says, Yannick Emerald, the brave Emerald Rose, and Li Wei, the cunning bard of Canal Street.
As soon as I put a hand up and I say, please sit. No one who has been wounded in fighting with me needs stand at my presence. Sit, please.
She scoffs and says, "Oh, this? But a flesh wound. I was just here with my aunt-in-law twice removed, and yeah, you don't worry. Not incest. It's about one.
Well,
she says,
that's nice. Sit down. That's fine.
So yeah, you guys.
So, Mom, anybody else around?
So she sits down and says, of course, Pasarma, a brave young warrior in a time of peace. When I arrived, she came at the first call, visiting at court as she was. And she smiles and she says, yes, of course, I had to. And she's got her falcata at her hip. And you can tell she's one of those wall scalers. She's one of the skirmishers. She also has her javelins on her all time. And you recognize the ironwood. And yeah, she is there and she's taking it all in. There is a note around the door as someone says, the prelate Daichi approaches. He will be here soon. And Mom kind of looks at Pasarma and says, my dear, please, allow me to help you. I must receive another soon. And Pasarma, someone else comes in and they help hobble her out. But she does make eyes at you, and Mom comes back in and she says, So,
Mother?
And she says, what did you think? A brave young warrior who has been wounded in the field and is now forced to stay here for some months.
Are you trying to write your own novel, Mother? I know that you probably read such things, the great warrior and the shield maiden. It's too fanciful right now, Mother. Too fanciful.
She says, Forgive a woman her dreams, my sweet son. I know that there was a time and a season for all things. I do not mean to press, but as a tactician, I would advise you on every opportunity.
I will definitely take that one under advisement, Mother. She was comely. I will not argue that. And a woman that could stand beside me in battle is obviously something. But
yeah. So you guys sit a moment, and Alma does turn to Li Wei and says, "And Li Wei, what of your family? I hope you have not shared so much of our suffering in these days."
Well, I've been lucky. It seems that, that area isn't particularly desirable, even for the traders. But I've heard that they were definitely targets. Thankfully, they hunkered down. So at the moment, things are okay.
There's a rap on the door, and it slides in a little. Daichi, never being one to wait after he knocks, as he says, "I think this is where the party is." And he looks and he says, Yannick, Li Wei, it's been good to see you. He steps up.
I stand up immediately whenever he comes in.
He looks you up and down. He looks happy, but in a nostalgic, bittersweet way. Like he's looking at an old photograph. And he says, "It's been some time since we took a swim in the pond, huh?"
It has. The years have flown by as if they've only been several weeks.
It feels like it could have been a month, maybe a month and a half ago. Well, he comes in and he gives you a clasp on the shoulder, more reserved.
I hug. I'm a hug.
You go in for the hug.
I go in for the hug.
He
The minute
holds
he
a
puts
moment.
his hand on his shoulder, I wrap him up.
He goes for a moment, and silently, he hugs you as well.
And I step back and I kind of grab him on the shoulders and I say to him, I kind of look down for a minute and I look over at Mother and I look back at him and I look like I'm about to say something. Like my mouth opens, it closes, it opens, and then my hands drop and I just nod to him and I look to Mother so that she can say hello to her other son.
She nods and she says, "It is good to see my sons embrace each other. In this time when we were without..." She doesn't finish. It breaks my heart, Yannick, that you were not there for the funeral, but it was beautiful. He always wanted all of us to be there. But I think he had imagined it differently. Come, Daichi, sit. Everyone sit. And she pours some water from a grand gold carafe that she has. And
is sake a thing in our realm?
Absolutely. You do, yeah. So you got some sake for sure.
Great.
Good.
Yeah.
Sake.
Mom also has a couple bottles of red wine in her room at all times. Just in case.
Yeah.
She gesticulates and she says, "Well then, it should seem that we have an early council meeting, don't we? Although, I do have an announcement to make of a political nature." And Daichi looks at her and says, "Oh." And she says, "Yes, I will be retiring my post as steward." She looks at Li Wei and says, "I have seen a very able man, and I think it is time for the younger generation to perhaps share that. As I sit here with my sons and think to their future." And you realize she's saying sons plurally, ambiguously.
And when she says that, I look between the two. I look between Li Wei and Daichi, and I say, "Daichi, Li Wei, I have already spoken to Mother about this, and we both agree. But before it was announced in any type of a public fashion, I felt that it was more important to speak to you in private. It's one of the reasons I wanted you here, Daichi." And I look to Li Wei and I say, "You and I have shared years of adventure together now. More than once you have saved my life, and more than once I'd like to think that perhaps I saved your life. I'm not sure.
Of course.
You always seem to be there whenever things always go wrong. You're constantly there. You literally put yourself bodily in the way of those who would extinguish our flame. Mother has agreed, and I have agreed that we would publicly name you my brother, and she would adopt you fully, if you would accept it." And then before Li Wei says anything, I look back at Daichi and I say, "Understand this one thing, brother. This does not change the relationship between you and I. You will always be my brother, regardless of the post, because I understand why you did what you did. You are my brother, and you always will be. You will be uncle to the 5, if I remember right, 5 is what the wizard said, my 5 children."
And he says, Daichi, he has a serene look to him. You remember the day he came back from killing that devil, and he was distant. The speech he gave at the mustering ground, but there was a spark of warmth as he smiles and says, 5, Mother, it sounds like he's got a plan. And she says, "Well, I'm trying to help him."
Well, Mother seems to have a plan, brother.
he
Setting me
chortles.
up with any attractive wounded woman on the battlefield, apparently.
He says, and here I am, set up drinking plum wine with many a comely old priest and priestess discussing theology. I wonder who fights the harder battle on that front." And he chuckles and he looks to Li Wei and he says, "Any man who has saved my brother's life is a brother to me, Li Wei. I walk a different path now. A different world is left to me. But from the Hall of Mirrors, I will look out across this city, this province, this realm, and this family. Always. He nods his assent.
And I look to Li Wei and I say, do you accept this honor?
Of course. With the years, the time that has passed between us, I have already felt this brotherhood with you. In which case, I feel that I've already enjoyed the honor, and now it's simply making it official in title.
Then stand and hug me, Li Wei, Emerald. Be my brother. We will announce this to the public soon so that they might know. Embrace me as a brother.
And yeah, Daiichi and Amma watch. And as it happens, you know, Amma sheds a tear. And Daiichi watches. And yeah, you embrace one another. You get up, you embrace each other, you feel each other, and you are here. Li Wei
and he stabs me right in the back. And he's like, ha!
Li Wei number one. So
I made it to the top, baby.
Yeah,
Rising
so
up.
all is ready, and Amma says, well, then I feel it is as good a time as any to inform you that Li Wei is my candidate for your new steward.
I had thought of such. I cannot think of a man better for the job.
Daiichi says, well, we are girded now in family and tradition. I think it is as good a time as any to face the field before us all. He looks to Yannick and says, brother, the fate of the traitors is yet to be decided. You announced on the field that some would be made example, and others left to live. Furthermore, there is the question of the lands of the traitors. What lords they will go to, if they will be replaced by those beneath them. I do not mean to drag down this glorious ceremony, but perhaps, with this announcement, you could follow it with your judgment. You cultivated a young image as a man of justice with your ruling on Steinbridge that father stood behind. Perhaps you can also show yourself in fullness, a man of the people, and show that it was not predestined that those who stood against you would suffer their fates, but of the result of their choices. In this way we will reaffirm the rightness of things, the song of songs, the going of the cantos, the crimes of the canticles. And he shrugs and says, just an idea.
We will be just in all that we do. Now, I before I finish answering him, I had a question.
Yes.
In the past, there's obviously had to have been some type of treason. What is generally the punishment in tradition?
So the
treason?
traditional punishment for treason is anyone at the rank of Baron and up who remain loyal to the traitors to the end is dead, or they accept, or they become a penitent. And a penitent, they like Daiichi, they would renounce everything, and they would be put as the Sohai or Templar of like a random shrine in bumfuck nowhere to spend the rest of their life, you know, ensuring the shrine doesn't get attacked or like squatted in. For people below, if they're a knight who didn't take a particular leadership role, if they did, or if they committed an unchivalrous act, or if you manufacture an unchivalrous act they committed, you execute them. Let's just say a lot of accusations are already flying and tend to fly in these environments, and based on what you've heard, plenty of Half-Tief's men are guilty as Sünde, rather, of, you know, killing innocents, dragging people into it, killing the unarmed, killing your loyal ridders who said, what the fuck do you mean we're putting this guy on the throne? I'm Yannick Emerald's man. He ain't dead yet. And they were like, there are lots of people who never got off their farms with that statement because they didn't get a letter, they didn't get informed, they didn't know what's happening, and the guys who rounded up to recruit them killed them when they wouldn't join. So there are a lot of guilty people all over in this particular case of treason. But broadly speaking, lords, dead. No, not offered pen, dead. Right? Which you've knocked off both of the lords. The neutrals are another question. A lot of lords didn't show up. Now, some of those people had reasons. Some of those people didn't have reasons. Some of those people may or may not have been contacted by Svez. You don't know, because before Svez was captured, he burned all his books to deny the information to the enemy. Unfortunately, that also means you're not sure who did or didn't get called by Svez. Svez only had as many people as was strictly necessary in communication with each other, so that there couldn't be a leak. But you would know that some people like Zilbate, for example, Flying Sword Guy, both of the other Twin River Lords showed up, and he stayed home.
So, I would look to Daiichi, and I would nod, and I would say, justice will be done, and we will be just, and we will be forgiving for those soldiers who followed into this battle. We cannot hold that against them. They may have been misinformed. They may have only done what they thought was correct in their honor. We will not take a lowborn's land. We will not take a soldier's land. We will not punish the soldiers. We will return them to their homes and have it be done.
He nods, and your mom does interject at this point and says, "It's worth noting, and I would rarely speak this at such a time, but it is worth saying. Half-Tief was always more popular with the men than Sigrun. Sigrun valued accomplishment, and my dear husband saw greatness in everyone who displayed it.
Indeed.
But the common soldier did tend to favor Half-Tief, leader of the vanguard. He was seen as their protector, who provided for them and who took in cold counsel their considerations and their problems. It is disastrous that such a man has betrayed us.
It is my hope, Mother, that these individuals who are shown mercy will look upon me and Leeway as those who descended into the pit and came back up, who rode in the vanguard of their own battles and constantly were willing to fight for the people around them. And think about that the next time something like this happens, because inevitably it will. I have designs, Mother. We will not remain the size that we are.
And
But
her eyes perk up at that, and Daiichi says, "It is a blissful life, the temple."
well, brother, my thoughts are actually going there next. For the neutrals, those who either were hanging back and waiting to see how things went, or perhaps didn't want to get involved, I believe that it will be they who pay for the brunt of the damages that need to be repaired.
He nods, and he says, "We just say anything, he nods."
Our people here have suffered, whether they were fighting or not, and so we will need to replant, we will need to rebuild, and I believe that these folks who decided that they would be better off, who lost nothing, will pay the brunt of this, and let that be a lesson to them that if their lord calls, they should respond, or else they will pay the penalty for such. For the lords, we have already taken care of them. For the barons, I will hold court. We will hear their words. I will not accept accusations against others. They will be asked upon their honor what their thought was and where they stand now. Those who ask for penitence shall receive it and be sent out to the individual or as Templar to areas that we need the protection for your temples. I will leave their distribution up to you. I believe that you will know most of the lords by their names, and where they would be best served for both the realm and yourself. And for those who bulk and stick by their story,
Indeed.
it is hard to execute a man who believes in something. It is hard to execute an individual who has strength of character enough to stand forth and accept the punishments for the thing that they done. These individuals will not be executed. I will find use for them. Not as slaves, not as any indentured servants. I will find use for them. But their lands will be forfeits. And they will go to those who showed up to do battle with us. I will minimize the amount of executions that need to be done because we believe in honor, courage. These two things are the first words that are a part of our code. They are exemplifying this by standing firm. And perhaps these individuals will find redemption. I have yet decided how that'll be done. If the need is there, they will be executed. I can't have traitors constantly running around and have to watch my back. We already have to do that with so many individuals, but I will look on an individual basis to see if these people are worthy of redemption or not.
Yeah, and he nods, and he says, I had often imagined you saying things like this to me, Yannick. But I had imagined that it would be me you were looking to for approval. Now I see
I
we've
still
cut
do, brother.
He,
I still do.
he waves his hand and says, We have found harmony in cutting out the middleman. You know what to do, Yannick. Keep to your course. Cleave to tradition. And show what mercy you can within the confines of the ruler's lot.
Love, brother. Love is what will build a stronger land.
Your mother's
hate.
eyes beam and gleam at this. So, you have a round of water. Daichi whips out and says, Love builds much. But he whips out a bottle and puts it on the table. And it has like a very like it's a white bottle with a very artisanal teal like woman with like snow picturized behind her. And he says, and sake often helps when fomenting feelings of love. Shall we then?
Oh, absolutely. I was
Love.
let us share several rounds of love here.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, you guys have a drink. Daichi heads back to the temple, and after it all, it is June.
Wait. No.
Go back.
So the goal is to kind of start getting him lit up, right?
I see.
So the goal here is right. So the overall goal was to have the wooden leg, right? To sip where he drinks, and I would begin to probe into there to see if, right. The idea here, it's not all just words. I mean, it's all has meaning, like this idea of love and everything. But it's to kind of start probing him because he had a face that did not sit well, and so I'm kind of poking and prodding a little bit to see if there might be something going on behind the scenes that I should be concerned about.
All right, so I have a question. Leeway, you get the sense that like Yannick is kind of like you have a long experience as a con man. You know how to get someone drunk and get them talking.
Yeah.
Do you whip out any of those tricks when you realize that Yannick's intending to have your now adoptive brother?
Please help me.
Look, if that's
cheap drunk.
Absolutely. If that's the case, like I imagine that Leeway will at some point just start introducing like some drinking games of like we should play this game, if you we'll name a category and we'll go around and whoever ends up not being able to name a category will drink.
Daichi says, games. I can see why you like him, Yannick.
Yeah.
Be warned, Liwei. Our brother always wins. He has a mind for them. And Alma nods indeed. And she says, "Oh, let's." And it's been so long since I played a good drinking game. And yeah, with that, you're assisting
Great.
here.
Yes.
So Yannick, if you're a demon drink. So roll me insight with advantage, but regardless of the result of the roll, you're gonna learn something. Okay.
Ooh.
So at some point, he says, "You know, they were trying to propose sending one of my Sohai out there. The point of the ritual being worked like that was, of course, that I would be the bait. You see, they create the circle, and then at the bulk of where the demon would go to try and consume the souls and spirits, they put someone who's ready. I told them, I've seen the canticles. I've seen hell. I've seen what it does to people. And it doesn't matter where I stand, I'm never going to give someone an order I wouldn't follow. To be honest, they praised me for being brave. But all I could think was, I'm not brave enough for this. He smiles sadly and says, well, here's to everyone we've lost. And more drinks. So he says that either way, Yannick. You get that out of him. So you get the sense that he is a man who is torn by the fact that he was raised to be everything a good ruler should be, and was running out ahead of what his father had expected of him, thinking he could chase and race to greatness. And now all that's left to him is this. And in a way, he doesn't think it's beneath him, but he feels like so much of his life has been sucked away, and it's getting to him. But also, he's growing into it. Your brother is not becoming the somewhat carefree man hardened into a harder man. He's becoming a man who is steel. A differently alloyed sort of steel. And he is grappling with what he's expected to do, with what he has done, and with what he will do. And he isn't hurt by the fact that you have adopted Liwei, but in a way, he feels like he has failed you. Because, you know, he's not there. And rather than being his number two, his advisor, his savvy guy, you're having to do the role he was trained for. And you've had to find a new one. And that clearly gets to him. And all of the death has gotten to him. Death has hit him different since that day. Like he's seen mortality and knows what it means. Even though he hasn't been on the battlefield with you, he knows what it means for someone to die. Maybe in a different way than a warrior does. And he has his own perspective, and it's beginning to... You were used to following his footsteps, but now he's gone somewhere you've never tread and never will. And it's... Yeah.
No, carry on.
You've seen... Basically, you were his caboose. But now he's on a different track, and he's going over the horizon, looking back at you.
So... I would listen, as and I would kind of give a nod towards Liwei for thanks for, kind of doing like this. And I would look over at him, and at one point, it doesn't have to be right then, it would be later. And I would tell him, like, there are things in this world and beyond that I will never be able to understand, brother. There are things that I cannot do, no matter how much experience I get, no matter how many battles I go into, no matter how many people I lead, no matter how many people I watch die, no matter how many good or bad decisions I make. There are so many things that I will never be able to understand. And one of those is the spirit realm. And yet you who say that you were worried about your courage, nobody has ever doubted your courage, brother. You did things fully knowing the punishment that would be involved in them because of your courage. You stood out there as bait where I could never have stood. Never think for 1 second, brother, that you are not where you should be. While I would have been grateful to follow you and advise you and to flip the roles back and forth. Who's to say that if this would have happened during that time, that whoever had been selected wouldn't have faltered and let demons upon this world? You have done things that I will never be able to do, and you continue to do so. I need you, the realm needs you, and I think that you need to be exactly where you are because this is what you are meant for.
He grimaces and says, "Perhaps, brother. Perhaps. The more I pray, the more I wonder, are we meant for everything? Does fate decide our hand when we were born? Or are we all just trying to make our meaning in this world and make our peace with what we've done?" You get the sense that there's more that he wants to tell you, but he's not telling you right now. And even pretty drunk, like soused, like saying that stuff about the demons that he wasn't really planning to let loose, he has his inner guard. And honestly, it surprises you because the Daiichi you knew didn't have that. It's developed. It's a shield. And he bears it always.
I would let the topic go then. I don't want to
Mm.
force him into something that he doesn't want to talk about.
All right. So you guys carry on, and there's drinking, there is merrymaking. Night turns to day. And it is June 3rd, and you are in the Grand Hall of Three Hill. And Leeway is at your side. Various and sundry court officials have gathered to witness a very important moment. Han Van Ham whispers, and Quartz is there as well. He wanders in from an alley, from a side passage, stuffing back in saplings and seedlings to his pockets. You know, he's been around town already with them. And, the Chamberlain, Vorion von Wertz is here. Lots of people are here. And Daiichi is here. And, your mother is here. And there are many, many, lordly witnesses. And you know that after this ceremony, you are going to decide the fate of several lords and barons. Well, barons, actually. Just kidding. No lords. So, you stand together, and Daiichi says, well, I suppose this calls for a priest. And he steps forward, and he says, clasp your hands. Together. He gesticulates to both of you.
Okay.
He takes out a red string and ties it around your hand. And he says, this is the red string of fate. You were not born together by blood, but you shall be brothers in truth. Ama Emerald Costanza, or you say Emerald Costanza Ama, would you, do you hereby take Chunli Wei as your adopted son? I do. This, and just, he shall be your family in this world and the next. As it shall be, as it is said, as it shall be written. And he cuts the cord, and it falls from both of you. He whispers a word and swings his fingers in a half arc, and the cord burns up to little ashlets before it hits the ground. And he says, and so it is. And Li Wei, you are now Emerald Chun Li Wei, and you are in the family, baby. Everyone, there's a clapping. Several of the Ritters are there. Balbrin is here as a guard, and he's given a round of applause. He's very excited. Von Ortel beams with pride to see his protege, having risen so far. So that is the scenario. That's more or less the situation. when a page boy gives the trumpet up, and Han Van Ham whispers in someone else's ear, who says, "Now bringing in the Baron von Gershwitz," and as well as the rider, the Ritter, known as Corrigan the Red. And they bring forth two men, and they both walk with their pride. And they are disarmed, but they are in their regalia, and they are escorted by your veteran Ritters. And the first person up is Baron von Gershwitz. He bows to you, both of you, and they kind of Vio whips out a letter that says, "We have here Baron von Gershwitz, self-confessed collaborator with the treason, acting on behalf of Lord Watano." And von Gershwitz nods. Is still bowing.
Look at it. So yeah, I raise your head.
He raises his head and he says, "My liege."
So tell me, where do you stand now?
I stand in defeat.
And I ask of you, do you repent for being a traitor? Do you wish to take back that which you committed?
He thinks about it for a moment. And he says, "A man wishes many things in hindsight. But where I stood then, I cannot say I made the wrong choice." And everyone kind of like, oh. And he says, "The southern border was beset by raiders. So too did foes fall from afar upon Borm. There was a time of chaos, and the number of seasons before the peace faded was on the table. Next spring, or soon after, it is clear there will be war. The gold covets your lands and those further south.
So you committed treason against me whenever you have people at your border from another kingdom."
My liege, that is precisely the point. The realm was unable to act. We needed a leader in place, moving decisively to staunch the flow of the enemy. I confess as well, my liege. It is known that you had made great overtures of peace at one point in Riats when you were a young man. There were those who debated whether or not you would try to find peace with Conrad Gold. I am told he is a very honorable Ritter, but his father will do anything to destroy your family. I did not want what happened, but when Lord Watano came to me and said that we were going to seize control and use that control to defend the realm, to keep the Snake Coast, to keep Borm from being broken away, to keep it whole, I asked why we did not put a member of the cadet branch from the countryside of Kwiatz on the throne. He told me that when the time had passed, they would go and they would take one of your distant relatives and they would put them on and they would retire their powers. I want to tell you I believed them. But to be honest, I'm not sure I could tell you either way. Watano was always a guarded man. Half-Deep was very loyal to your father.
Half-Teeth saw an opportunity to seize control and put himself on top. Had he been anything other than a traitor. When he saw me upon the field, he would have laid down arms.
He nods and says, "It's true. I have chosen wrongly. But if I went back without knowing this, I do not know that my heart would be swayed and I would make a different choice. It is
What
only...
if you were to go back knowing such things? You were to go back knowing that I would rise once more from the depths of the earth to take my rightful place amongst my people.
Then when the Lord Watano came to me, I would attempt to convince him that we needed to wait. And if it was clear to me he would not wait, I would have drawn my blade and struck him down and suffered death before his forces, and thus doing so, delivered a decisive blow to the traitor army. Without Watano, Halfteef may not have even attempted his treason. They acted together.
So I am ready to render judgment. Would you hear my judgment?
He says, "I am at your mercy, as is your right as ruler."
I ask you, do you have children, Baron?
He looks nervous and he says, "2 sons."
And are your sons set to inherit your lands? How old are they?
So he says, "One has just seen his 17th year, the other 13. Yes, they are set to inherit my lands, of course, when I die."
My judgment is this. You were a fool for following this man. You were a fool for fighting a battle on 2 fronts. But you speak truth. You speak with honor. I will allow your lands to pass to your sons. You, on the other hand, will need to become a penitent.
He nods deeply, and he says, "My lord is just and wise."
I would give you time to ensure that your sons are ready to take over. I would not see dissidents amongst your lands.
He says, "I will speak with them, and make it clear that you have shown great mercy, and that they should always, as I have taught them before, honor the ruler, and seek to maintain peace in the realm.
Understand this. Sorry, Baron. Continue.
I pray they will not make a mistake like mine."
Baron, I need you to understand one thing. With one hand, I offer friendship and mercy. With the other hand is the sword. If your sons, at any point, turn treasonous, it will be my standing order that your family will be destroyed root and stem. You understand this? From eldest to youngest, every member of your household will be slain.
He nods, and he says, "It is by your mercy that it is not already so. They will understand."
Go home. My ridders will
Mm.
go with you.
And
See to the transition of your lands. And my brother will find a place for you.
yeah, and Daiichi says, "Brush up on your prayers. You'll be spending a lot of time in them." And yeah, so they pull him back, and Corrigan the Red comes forth. He doesn't actually have his helmet on. He's got messy blonde hair, and he's young, maybe early 20s, around your age. They bring him forward, and he does not kneel. He says, "I confess. I am guilty." And he's a Ritter, so normally he's not the guy who has to face as much. But he says, "Lord Halfteef gave me an order, and I obeyed. But it was an unlawful order, a dishonorable order. I have brought shame." And Vio says, "Gorgon the Red stands accused of poisoning a well in Ida Bao's realm as part of a concerted effort to keep her from sallying forth with her forces and assisting." He says, "It's true. Ida Bao demurred. She would not claim whether or not she would side. She said to give her 1 more month to decide. She felt that you would arrive. And look, she was right." My lord gave me an evil task, and I say this, I am not the only of Halfteef's men given such tasks. I confess this as well. I knew full well that there was a death squad. Their objective was the slaughter of Delricker Emerald. I know they have all died, but I do not know Delricker's fate. Knowing this, I went and poisoned a well. A vile act of Sunde. I have become an evil man out of obedience.
I look to Li Wei and I say, brother, if you are to stand at this high position, it will be to you to make decisions as well.
Yes.
Given your beginnings, your place of birth, and the effect that such a thing would have had upon your people, I think it only right that you judge this man and you decide, and I will stand with whatever decision that you make. Do you hear me,
Right.
Corgan?
Corgan
My
says,
brother, Li Wei, now holds your fate in his hand.
He says, my fate is a wretched thing. I apologize for its inconvenience, Li Wei, Emerald. And he bows his head.
Corgan. So, you claim that you simply followed the order and obeyed it.
Yes, I obeyed.
Do you know who drinks from that well?
The whole town. Young and old, and they mix it with their alcohol. Any traveler at the tavern, the inn.
And Li Wei is going to, as far as information goes, would anyone in the court know anything about that town?
In terms of information, so Vorion von Vertz, who I don't think you've met, but Fazil did meet after a fun adventure you two had. I don't know that he shared anything that he said, but you might recall, you out of character recall. He does pipe up and says, I recall assessing taxes from that town.
Yes.
There were only 2 wells. However, one was the property of the Ritter and far from town. If the people had known, they would have been able to go to the other well and draw there. However, based on these reports, he gesticulates, I have of funeral expenses. I take it they did not have such informations. And Corgan says, I told no one. I received my orders directly from Halfteef. He said no one else was to know.
I see. So, in this case, you knew what the consequences would be of your actions to innocent people, to people who weren't, I would say, even capable of joining in the fray. We have children involved in that town. We have people who were we to engage in conflict, they wouldn't be involved, and you chose to involve them.
He sighs deeply and says, yes, through my hand, stained red with blood.
All right. My lord, Yannick, as far as this person's fate, I would say that he deserves the worst for bestowing the worst upon those of us who don't deserve it.
Then make the call, Li Wei.
Execution, then.
Yeah, Corgan.
Corgan the Red for crimes against the citizenry of this realm, knowing full well that these are against any type of articles of war that we hold true to. Going against tradition and honor, you are found honorless and only deserving of death.
Yeah, and he says, "I
Give him
accept."
the blood eagle.
He says,
Wow.
He says, "I accept, and though I have no right to, I make one request."
And I looked at Li Wei to see what he says. This is his.
Hmm.
This is your rodeo, Li Wei. I know it's your first.
What is your request?
He says, "My wife is much older than me. She has already seen the death of one husband. I am sure it will not bother her too much. However, she was a loyal warrior of Sigrun's who fought at the Butcher of the Scourds.
Hmm.
I would ask that there be no ill association from me upon her. She did not know what I did."
I see. That sounds fair to me.
Yeah, VO, by the way, is kind of like, by the way, Samantha's here. Doggo is here.
Yay!
VO kind of like, is treading
I'm
behind.
sitting there like
Oh.
petting Sam.
And VO whispers
Goodness.
into his hand, "He's lying."
Hmm.
And, Alma kind of looks at you guys like, "Oh, fuck." And
Okay.
VO says, "He clenches his knuckles every time he lies. He's told the truth, but his wife knew."
I see. Hmm.
And, so, VO kind of like walks over to Kurai as though to pretend he was actually here to, talk to the bodyguard about something. Kurai and Iki just posted up in the corners watching this all go down.
So, if we were to bring her in, would she corroborate this?
There's no need, but yes, of course.
Does he clench his knuckles?
Yeah, he does.
Hmm. All right. In that case, I think Li Wei is going to walk up to him
Hmm.
and just kind of take his time,
Yeah.
slowly, just maintaining eye contact the entire time
Hmm.
before he says, "My advisor, well, is quite the expert when it comes to tells. And Corgan, you have an obvious one. It seems that not only were you in the wrong, but your wife as well."
He looks up at you, he bites his lip, and he says, "How old were you when the Butcher of the Scourds happened?"
How old was I, Lee?
So you and Yannick were
I was pause.
I know I have this fucking number like on God, so I could you're like around 4, but like no, literally I
Okay.
have a timeline I can tell you. Okay. Battle of the Scourge is 384. You
Okay.
are presently 18 turning 19. And yeah, it was 10 years, but yeah, so like 4 or 5.
I can tell you
Okay.
that I was 19 whenever you poisoned a well, asshole.
Yeah.
How about them apples?
Yeah.
Dick.
Yeah, you wanna say anything else? Anything else to
Yeah,
Corgan?
I'll play his game. I'll say I was about 4 or 5.
He says, "Do you know what my wife told me about the battle? I heard it was a great victory. She told me about everyone there. Did you know the Zilfung Coalition believed that they were having lands they'd be able to swiftly seize and legitimate it? Curious. So they brought their families. Sigrun's order was clear. She told me it's what Sigrun would do. She told me Sigrun Aemond would have given me the same order when I told her I wouldn't do it. And she told me I wasn't befitting to be one of his men if I would do less than she did under his order. It's not her
I will
fault.
not have my father's name slandered in my court.
I'm a dead man! Why should I lie?
I don't know. Your hands keep telling otherwise.
Here's the thing. Here's the damnedest thing, Yannick. You don't see his fingers. You don't see his knuckles clench when he says that.
And I look over at Mother to see what she's doing right now.
She's looking at him, but your mother has a way of looking past someone to make it look like she isn't looking away, but she's looking away.
She's looking at his forehead.
She's looking past him. Yeah, she won't quite meet his gaze.
Okay.
And everyone, I mean, lots of these guys are veterans of the battle. You know, like they could tell you. They could tell you quite how it went down. Everyone's kind of looking at you though, as if though to say like, did no one tell?
Did no one tell this guy?
Exactly how the one
I stand up and I stand up to my full fighter height and I kind of look around. I say, Li Wei, your judgment will stand no matter what you say. You are my brother,
Yes.
and I have given you this. This is yours. But I will say here and now for all to listen. Innocents will not die by our hands. We do not hunt and kill and poison those who are not fighters. I do not care the circumstances from here on in. While I sit on this throne, no such thing will ever happen. And let those words go out to all amongst the lands. That way, this never happens again. Poison is not a warrior's tool. It is a tool of those who have no honor, and we will hold to honor for as long as we live.
Yeah.
And I sit back down in my chair, like slumped, and I mad dog Mom for a minute.
Yeah.
I give her one of these.
Mom,
And then I look back. And
Mom
it's like,
holds,
Levi,
her
continue.
holds her mouth and looks at you, and it looks like she has a lot behind those eyes that she can't say right now. But Vio says,
Dang.
"My liege, I assure you, the letters go out at once." And you don't think you ever seen Vio quite so pleased. Iki, you know, when you look at him, he's a very guarded man, but he cannot help but smile at those words. And it's not like a teehee, it's like a, I made the right choice. I'm on the right side.
Nice.
And yeah, Daiichi also looks shook by what he's just heard, but he's got that shield in him, and he keeps his balance. I mean, he'd be the Daiichi you knew would be out here backhanding this bitch on the dirt right now for saying those words about Dad if he hadn't gone the way he'd gone in life. You know what I mean? So the fact that he's holding back, but you can tell he's a caged lion. Like if it weren't for everything, he would be beating the shit out of this guy on the stone. But he knows that.
I would look over.
Yeah.
And I would kind of get a feeling, and I would look and I would say amongst all the people, the truth will always be held here in my courts. You will not be punished for the truth. And I kind of look at Daiichi because I'm sure that he's picking up that I want to fucking I want to put this guy into the dirt too, right? But we will honor the truth no matter how distasteful and bitter it might be. And so I would kind of look at Li Wei and say, brother, continue. This is your judgment, and please use your discretion on any information that you have received now.
And Corgan just says, well then, that's it. I lied in the hopes of sparing my wife whatever may be put upon her. Torture me, kill me however you will for my sins. Just don't hurt her. I'm an evil man, and you have passed wise judgment in executing me. I just ask mercy for others.
You didn't give mercy to others. And so, you will be executed. And I think we need to have a word with your wife.
he says, "She didn't do anything. We just talked. She didn't do anything." And he looks at you pleadingly.
As far as punishment goes, I don't think that she should be executed. But as far as association goes, she's an accomplice. She may have spurred you on. She may have pushed you to do the order and not doing it herself. But if you needed spurring on, her hands are as dirty as yours.
He hangs his head in silence. Yeah, this is a man who has nothing left to say. The Ritter looks at you as if though to say, should we cart him away?
Take him away.
Yeah, and they say, one last matter of law.
And I would note something too.
Yeah.
Very Games of Thronesy, but this is something I feel that if this was not something that my father did, this would be something that I do because I've been in battle, I've seen death, but the man who passes the judgment should wield the sword.
Yep.
So these executions will be done by either myself or Li Wei.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so you see someone familiar to you, your uncle, walking in. He has a wide escort, and he has his weapon at his hip, and he says, "Ah, nephew, it is good to see you. And I see I have one more nephew." And they say, Hanuman says, "Omito, Kaigan Emerald has a matter of law to address." And he says, "Yes." He takes out his sword and he kneels, and he says, "My nephew, as you know, I rode to your aid when I heard that the castle was under attack and that you were in a decisive battle. I could not help myself. An old man will sometimes dream of adventure. However, by ancient right, the Kaigan Emeralds are to remain neutral in all affairs of the realm. We are at your side for the matters in the months in the seasons between the year, for the matters of adventure and glory that is off of the battlefield. But I stepped onto that field, and I cut down your enemy's elite guard to get you and Li Wei and Vio through to the enemy, because I knew every second counted. But that does not wipe away my crime. I have violated the Kaigan Emerald neutrality." And, so, Yannick, fun fact, did you know about the Kaigan Emerald neutrality? You know the history. A very, 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 very long time ago, the Kaigan Emeralds and the main, they were the Emeralds, right? There was a civil war. And it was a civil war that happened because a father did not enkindle either of his sons to the flame until he was very sick and dying, for reasons that are still hotly debated to this day. So they had a longer, more tragic civil war that people combined to the flame can have. Like, if you and Li Wei turn on each other, it'll burn you up from the inside in addition to destroying the realm.
Yeah, remember that, Li Wei.
Yeah, holding the flame together binds you beyond trees. That's part of why you can have such big ruling families in this world. Literally, if you're a third son and you're enkindled that flame too, you cannot scheme against your older brother. Like, you're playing with the lineal fire and everyone's getting burned. But that didn't happen. These brothers fought, and the final rendition, too many people had died. The brothers wanted it to end, but too many people had died. And one of the brothers said, "Give me this island. And complete control over this island. Never bring your forces here. And I will go, and I will be neutral in all affairs forever. But when you need me for a quest, I and my descendants will always be at your side." You have two cadet branches. One is the Kwiatz branch. They live on a farm upstate. Lady Renho Masaoki went to them immediately when the treachery started and fucking hid them in her castle, and then she carried on. So if everyone in this room right now died in a bomb, they'd go find that cadet branch guy. Loyal servants like Renho would find that cadet branch guy or gal and put them in charge, right? The Kaigan Emeralds, despite being a cadet branch, they sometimes intermarry with you, and you elevate them to your family. But outside of that, they can never hold any office. They are noble. They're held to be very noble, but they can't, have anything but their island. And in war, enemies literally will not even invade their island, because that is how long and how honored the neutrality of the Kaigan Emerald are. He goes on to say, of course, I considered it a bandit action, because they were attacking you during an imperial peace. Surely imperial law would side with me that I was acting against vile foes who were outside the laws of war, and who they would have sided with against as well. However, our law, here in the Emerald Vale, our tradition, is still my family's neutrality. I have broken that. I must stand before you, Yannick, for judgment.
And when this all happens, I immediately look over at Daiichi, right? Because it's like this is happening all over again. A trusted family member is doing what was right, and yet punishment has to be done. And just like I would have done with Daiichi if I was in charge, I look to him and I say, Uncle, this is true. You broke the neutrality. This is a punishable offense. And so I would dig back into my head and ask myself, I'm not asking out loud. I would be thinking, what is the punishment normally for this?
So it's a really peculiar case, because this is a really peculiar law and tradition born in particular of your family. You can give me a history to try and know some precedent, but this is uncharted territory. This is
okay. And so while I'm doing this, does he have family?
He does. He has 3 kids. The season before you went adventuring with him, he couldn't come because his kids were sick, and he stayed home to take care of them.
Okay.
So he's a very loving and committed father and husband.
Okay.
You know faintly that the only time that you can think of where a person in your shoes had to make a ruling on a cadet branch member who had technically broken a law, but the imperial law was in their favor, got around it by kicking it to the magistrate of Rosabay, who is empowered to make rulings between the Graphi, between nobles on your level. And the magistrate had arbiters investigate, and they wound up delivering a favorable ruling. And
so I would, yep. And so I would say, Uncle, I ask you now, as this is my boon to you, and there will be more because I owe you for what you did. But the law is the law. So this is my boon to you. I would ask you, do you want me to render judgments, or would you like a magistrate to give judgment on this?
He looks at you and he says, I feel the magistrate would rule in my favor, and yet you are my beloved cousin's son. I have seen those who would try to overrule you, who would try to deny you your right. I cannot help but feel that to ask for the magistrate's judgment would in some way usurp you. I cannot do this. I am loyal to you unto death, my nephew.
So this is a completely out of character thing, right? This is a question I'm asking based on, just the history, just knowledge. Is there a way that I could use this breaking of neutrality as a means to repair the rift that was sown in between the two families?
Technically speaking, you have the power to right now say, hi, I'm the guy who makes the laws. Actually, Kaigan Emerald's no longer neutral and also no longer separate. They'll be just like the other cadet branch. They will be in line to inherit, yada, yada, yada. All
that would be...
You can say that shit right now, and it will be true.
So I stand up and I say, Uncle, I owe you my life, and the kingdom owes you a great debt. I will not make this call without you giving me your blessing. I'm not asking for your permission. That is not my duty. You have broken the neutrality, And this whole break between our two great houses happened because of two brothers squabbling. And I have told my brothers and my mother and everyone that will ever hear it that love is what will help build this kingdom stronger. Caring for one another, taking care of each other, regardless of our past. It is the unity that will make us stronger. And I would say that you breaking the neutrality is a sign that it is time for our kingdoms once more to unite under one house.
He
That
beams.
you-
He beams at you.
I would say, Uncle, if you give me your blessing, I would now proclaim it that the break between Kaigan Emerald and Emerald is no longer there. That we are once more united as one house, a stronger house.
He nods his head and he says, "My nephew." He unties the tachi at his belt. He holds it. He was already offering up his sword. He comes and he says, "As a symbol of unity and brotherly love." He looks between you and he looks at Li Wei. He holds up his blade and he says, "Let this pass from my family to yours and back again. 2 hands, 1 blade, 1 purpose, 1 emerald rose." And Umito has not drawn, but offers Tenkaseru, Heaven's Touch, an Emerald family heirloom tachi, said to hail all the way back from the days of the Sunset Kingdom itself.
And so I take hold of it, right?
Mhm.
I'm not sure how he's presenting. If he's presenting
He's
it the
presenting
normal
like
way.
with both hands in the scabbard. You got it.
Right. I take it. I pull out the blade
Mhm.
and I draw it across my palm. And the blood drips down and I wick the blood off and I put it back and I hand it back to him. And I say, "Let this be the last time that a Kaigan Emerald blade ever tastes the blade of another Emerald. And let it pass from my family back into yours, that it may pass to your sons in perpetuality." There we go. There's the words.
And he says, with a smile, "Let it be so. Let it be so, Yannick Emerald. I had thought to go on one last adventure as an old man and consign myself to my fate. But now I see it is that I was inspired by the next generation." And he says, "I shall watch from my island with eager anticipation what comes next." And he doesn't like leave immediately, like he's around, but he's not going to slow down proceedings. That's court for the day. That's everyone you're prepared to hear. It's
Sake!
Sake time.
Yeah.
Well, sake in the council chamber. You guys are back in the council chamber, and guess what? Quartz has his feet up on the stone table, just like he said he would. Vorion Vertvirtz is here, Daichi is here, Vio is here, and y'all two sit at the head of the fucking table. And
Wow.
You know what? Umito's around too. Holy shit, yeah. I didn't see that coming, but let's fucking go. I thought it might happen, but I didn't know it was going to happen that hard. So, I'm going to call a 5-minute break if nobody minds.
I'm good with that. I'm actually running on full rights of my now myself.
All right, so 5-minute break. Thank
Roger.
you all for coming out. We will be right back for that 9:40.
Woo! Great.
do 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 do.
It felt like we all got back at exactly the
Right?
same time.
Did we? That's funny.
Yeah.
I'm actually down to 2-minute to 3-minute break that if y'all are.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm
All right.
ready.
All right, so okay, back early. Hello. So we're sat at the table, and it's time to go back to a map that we haven't seen in a second. It has a few more tokens on it. Hello, welcome to the Emerald Vale. It's time to. Oh, also, hey, I have your agents here. Look, you got a new one. His name is Umito. So.
Dun, 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 dun.
Indeed. So here's the realm. One little quick reminder.
Oh yeah, those. I don't like those things. Get rid of
If
those.
this staff is taking a nap, that means it's been tapped. If it's upside down, that means it's been double tapped. Your dad did a bunch of stuff when he left. So these little, like, like goat, demon eye, red eye things are strife.
Right.
When you reach 3 strife in a province, you have serious risk of a Raubenritter arising and having, like, uprisings and shit. So you want to keep that shit down. Every single point of strife on it reduces all the influence you're tapping from it by 1. Even you could tap it for it by 1. For example, you literally can't get any fertility out of Borum right now. Borum has 1 fertility, 1 strife. That means it's -1 on anything you'd be getting out of it. Additionally, your forces. The Veil Blades are fully intact. The Flashhead Ashigaru company is at 2/3 strength. The Heartwood Piercers company you have is at 50% strength. The coffers run dry, stroke looted, stroke unrecoverably spent, and because of the food distributions, because you have your father to take away all the men who'd be doing the planting during spring, you're down to 1 fertility in the granary. There's a new thing called the Capital Card. The Capital Card, you note you have influence, and in fact, this number is now wrong. Thank you, Judge Wolf. Let me fix that really quickly. Because, guess what? With the Kaigan Emeralds being merged, there is a suffusion. They are a very traditional family that holds a lot of the older ways. And this is such a boon to Gatoch in its unique place between high and low culture. You'll note it has its own tradition marker, and that's because you can use it as high or low culture. That he's actually a +1. So you actually have 2. You actually have 2 tradition, capital tradition now. The way capital tradition works is basically just basically I'll put it off to the side. Just that you can do stuff with it, and you can use any of these, right? You can only use 1 of your capital influences a season, and you can't use it again for the rest of the year for that particular thing. But in theory, every year you can be doing it. By the way, do you appoint Li Wei steward like your mom suggested?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Li Wei, the moment you're kind of like back there with
Great.
the books and talking to Vorian, you realize, oh hey, our capital doesn't make any money. I know why that is. All of the crime. I know. I'm involved. Yeah. Now that you're like man at the top,
Right.
You now what course of action do you say? You all sit down, and Vorian is going over like, and here are the accounts of the realm. In Koyalda there is great expense. We have several troops who were lost trying to reach you. The Lady Jella von Vergrave deployed her troops. And he would go on to mention, and Lord Scudder did not. And, you've got tabulated everybody who showed up and everybody who stayed home, and that policy is going to go into effect this year. But this is overall the scenario. Clearing strife normally takes 1 influence per strife that you're clearing. And you can do it in any way that you want to. You can use tradition. You can use money to just be like, throw money at the problem. You can use fertility to be like, people need crops and food and yada yada. You can throw tradition at it and say, come together as one, cleave to tradition. You can use infrastructure to say, the people's problem is access. We are going to, use the road network. We're going to change the levy system to address this. Some strife can only be broken with a certain type of influence, but all of the stuff that you're facing right now is generalized. And it is presently, of the 4 turns, summer. So, I know this is a lot, and we're going back into it, but I'll make 2 notes. I'll make 2 notes here just in the chat. One, any influence may remove strife 1-to-1. And 2, replenishing a unit to full costs 1 wealth, 1 fertility. And 3, constituting a unit of heavy ritters. Abrams checks his notes very quickly. Yeah, constituting a unit of heavy ritters costs is 2 tradition and 2 wealth. Fun fact. High culture. No. Okay. We're saving that fun fact later. So I've just hit you with the fucking book, but in character, what's happening is Vorvian is going down the books and saying we have issues here. The men haven't been back for planting, and of course there were the losses with the levies. And reports from Borm indicate that Harvar and Lady Argazura have managed to beat off the issues coming from across the border. Vio says, "My liege, it does seem like it was related to provocations designed by Half-Teeth. However, in the case of the South, it looks like the actors are less clear. Furthermore, the region to the south is chaotic. That realm is overrun by strife. My prediction, the moment it's legal, the Golds are going to annex it. They might not even have to fight a real war."
So the Gold are to our south. That's why Snake Coast is so...
Yeah.
Okay, so...
So Snake Coast is basically like, I'm sorry I don't have like the full region map, but yeah, it's like, yeah, the Snake Coast, yeah, goes down and like it's your land border with the like Rosabay to your south land border is here. Rosabay to your north land border is here and here. So yeah.
So these were Snake Coast was the people who sent a very small force to, but we met them in the center of the battle. They showed up. They sent sent representation.
Yeah. So Lord Zdan left behind some of his wounded guys to help organize, and he helped get your main soldiers, your Archbishop soldiers,
right,
back to his land where they'd be safe. And then he went to head to the capital, and he was the guy. Zdan is the guy who the boyar pulled the thing where Torslava started handing out weapons to all the peasants, and he created the peasant rush.
So I would, so everything that I talk about Leeway would be kind of, I would be talking and then looking at you to see any thoughts.
Right.
So at any point in time, if something comes up that you agree with, you disagree with, this is it. Yannick would make sure that you understand.
Yeah.
You are my full brother now. If I say something stupid, you can tell me I said something stupid. Like there is no need for any type of tact between us, right?
All
like,
right.
This is us. So, I would be looking at this whole map, and I would say, it's currently the Snake Coast is my major concern, along with our area here. I believe that we could use our traditional influence to help alleviate the strife here, but the Snake Coast, I think it would be best if we begin to move some troops into that area. Number one, that shows our support for the Snake Coast, and it also sends a message to the Golds down there that this is not a place that you can just come into. This is Emerald Land, and they should understand that.
So
absolutely.
I can tell you that stationing your units there will stop the strife from raiding from getting any worse. And you want to move, broadly speaking, we will understand that your forces are in the region.
Okay.
Your forces are in the region, and you are going to tap your capital. But you don't tap your capital. It's just you use up the slot, right? So
yeah.
are going to use up that double tradition that you've just earned by being a man of great culture, and you're going to deactivate. You're gonna knock off both of Kriotz's strife, basically.
Okay. Yeah. So I would like to be with the agents. I would put myself as the agent in Kwiatz. That I am. So now that the battle is over, I am not sitting inside of my hold. I am going out. Number one, they would see me in grungy clothes with a hammer in my hand, building stuff. With both of my guards kind of hanging in the back. I would not make them work. I'd make a joke towards Iki, like, "Hey, I know that you're tired of guarding bridges. Here's a hammer instead." But it would just be a joke, and I would be going out. So I would try to be the agent for this area.
And Iki looks at you and says, "My liege, it is a rare and humble pleasure for a man in the winter of his life to witness the most elegant of roses, that which combines each circle of life." And Karai kind of starts like, "Why are we doing this?" But he doesn't say anything. It's worth noting. So you're out there doing that, but an agent is sent. So when you take an action on the realm map, it can get interdicted the next season, and it won't happen unless you send an agent or you go yourself.
Okay.
You're there. You're being supportive, right? Like you're just sitting around the months, but you're not going away from the capital and leaving to be an agent. If you act as an agent yourself and go on a quest to solve a problem, that's fine. You can do that. But if you do it more than once in a year, you become considered gallivanting. And people start to have to go talk to, like, "Hey, where's Yannick?"
"Oh, this asshole.
Dude, doing a quest, helping the people. It's like, that's nice, but we need his stamp on this paperwork or we can't send the tax man. Like, you know.
Right.
So, but you are out there doing this. To reiterate, it's just you're not acting in strict game terms as an agent yet.
Okay,
If someone starts a fight in the north and you go deal with it yourself, you act as an agent to override.
Got it. Okay, so got it. Okay,
you're
cool.
out there. The people see you, and they remember what you did when you were younger as well, and they were reminded of what your reign is going to be like. So Kwiatz, through tradition, you will call upon like the traditional, like all Masons guilds of Kwiatz owe you however many weeks of labor, and you call upon that. You call upon your knights who have like a personal Mason who they also send. And who you call upon the people who have like vast gardens and extra food, and you say, "Now is the time." And they open their larders, and the tradition helps wipe away the strife, and things are returning to normal in Kwiatz.
So I would look at my uncle then, and I would tell him, I'd be like, "Uncle, you spoke of wanting to go on an adventure."
Indeed.
With the unification of our families, I think it would send quite a message if you were to go down to the Snake Coast and represent both of our houses down there in mitigating all the troubles that happen to be down there. You're obviously a man who can take care of a realm, and I think that would be good to send you with some of our forces down there to alleviate some of the strife that's down there. So basically, what I'm trying to understand what's going on. I'm sorry, my brain doesn't always function appropriately.
Yeah.
I am sending him as an agent into this area to alleviate the strife.
So
now, is that what I'm doing?
So you could spend resources to make this happen, but you can also send an agent and say, "Hey, agent, like, kind of do your thing."
Yeah,
and
that's.
And he's a man. Now, some people, like, if you sent Kurai to remove the strife, you're not quite sure what he would do necessarily, for example. But yeah, Umido is very game to do this. He goes down there. He treats it as a grand adventure, but, you know, he takes command of the forces, and he gives a sense of security. And fun fact that I'm forgetting to mention: you are Imperial rank 4 as a Duke, right?
Okay.
You can use 4 agents per turn without anything coming of it. You can't keep using them like the same one forever on the same thing, but you can use up to 4 before you start to have to spend infrastructure influence to deploy them. So you're good. You don't have to worry about that probably. Anyway, I'll say you send him, right? And that alone knocks off one of the strife, just because he's there. He's a symbol, but he's also like a fairly good leader, and he's uniting people.
Okay, so now, which of these realms did not send people to aid?
So, technically speaking, the only province that didn't send much of anyone other than some Ritters arrived was Borm. Now, Borm was double hit. The red line was almost entirely destroyed, although you did see some of the veterans join you. And there were raids happening to them across the border from outside the Empire that were propped up by Half Teeth. And Aragazura, the lady who you've met before, she also, Anshin von Grezny, rather. Anshin von Grezny.
Oh yeah, I remember her.
So she...
The klutzy one. The klutzy wizard.
The klutzy wizard. She stayed home and Harvar stayed home because they were being raided, but they did send some support. Not much. They are far enough to say they weren't neutral, but they didn't really come through clutch for you. And Jella, who I know you have many feelings about, she sent archers. She sent archers to the fight. She tried to get more men there, but Vio says, reports here indicate that Jella von Vergrave's forces were set upon on the roads. Something strange.
And she was there. Was she not? She was there, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
She brought archers with her, and she was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of her, but I cannot argue
Yeah.
that she.
Bayran Scudder no show.
Oh, okay. This is the man that I built his.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
You built
we got
his
a
fucking-
problem there.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna.
So the policy's
fucking
being
do that
enacted,
shit.
and like we're readjusting based on this. Tenshi Zilbate, he stayed home. Important to note, Watano owned the lands to the south. The north is Renho, and Tenshi Zilbate is near the capital of Twin River. That's all the way over here, and he's kind of between the two, and he stayed home. He did not. You don't know if he got a letter from Sfez and didn't answer, or if he didn't get a letter, but he remained at home. Ida Bao, she didn't make it to the field, but as previously mentioned, shit like her wells getting poisoned was happening, so
Yeah.
she could be
get that.
forgiven. She did. Some of her archers did manage to arrive. Some of her rangers did arrive at the battle, so it's not like she was a full no-show. She was loyal. Lots of people are dead, obviously, and Bortano and Half Teeth are dead. As you, of course, know, Gunter and Lord Pike
Oh
headed headed up the camp of the faithful. So they're your boys.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
boy,
I need to secure their loyalty. So I don't know what to do on the map wise, but they need
No.
they need a reward.
Yeah, your policy, like not represented strictly here, but I know what your policy is.
Yes.
And it's if you were loyal and showed up, you're getting reparations paid for by the other guys, the neutrals,
Yes.
and you're going to reshuffle some of their lands into their hands of the defeated.
Yes.
We'll handle the specifics off screen, but I
Okay.
know what you're saying, and I will
Yep.
implement that.
Okay,
And
good.
that will they have their own little realms they're dealing with, so you're more like the top level manager guy, but you're
Right.
giving them a nice up to what they have.
Okay.
You can directly call upon your lords, although you can't do it too often before they're kind of, beset. But yeah, so you've tapped none of your provinces thus far. It's summer.
Yep.
Technically speaking, you could just move on to the next turn, and you can move.
No,
on to fall.
I don't like any, especially in the Snake Coast. So the Snake Coast and Borm are my two major concerns. This area down here, we're gonna handle this. This is getting. There's gonna be a shakeup over here that's probably not gonna make a lot of people happy, but I'm angry.
Yeah.
So the Snake Coast, I think what I would like to do. So I don't know how to do this. So this is new. So I want to talk to you about what I want to do here.
Mhm.
I feel like I want to tap Snake Coast in order to use their tradition to get rid of that. With my uncle down there, and I would make sure my uncle understood before he left. Right, he already has. They have a feeling of security. Uncle, we need to cleave to tradition. This is why this whole battle happened, is because somebody decided that they thought they were better than everything else and broke tradition. We need to cleave this tradition. And so I want to have him kind of push, and I'll tap the Snake Coast in order to use their tradition to relieve that stress down there.
Here's the problem.
Yeah.
So you see that little tankard icon?
Yes.
There's a 1 next to it.
Yes.
They have 1 strife. If you tap a Snake Coast right now, you will get 0 tradition.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the
Infrastructure.
pillar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's-
that's infrastructure. My bad. And the bottom
it.
is money.
Um,
So important
okay.
note: you could use the Snake
Snake
Coast
Coast is
and go
money.
either money or infrastructure. And then say,
Okay.
and you could frame it as, you know, the Snake Coast is
Got
a
it, I got it.
traditional like merchant center, and they've been loyal, and they're doing their job, and we're defending them, and we are all lifting together. And I have sent you my uncle in a show of faith and defense. I'm putting my troops and my blood on the line.
Yes.
So
That's
how
what I want to do.
all right.
Yes.
So you
Yeah,
tap it
so-
because it
yep.
has one strife. It's only going to get you 2 wealth. You instantly spend it to clear the strife from the Snake Coast and
Great.
Born.
Okay.
So
Now I
yeah.
sorry. I was the money that goes up there and takes care of Borm, I would be going up there and taking that.
Oh yeah. Do you and Li Wei take a little road trip to say hello to Lady Anshin Rose Gresny?
I'm not leeway. It's cool.
Is it
I'm
a
good for
solo
that.
ride? It's a solo ride.
I'm not saying it was a solo ride. Okay. Leeway can go everywhere with me.
Okay. Li Wei,
I
as
would go
wingman,
up-
as royal wingman, do you feel
He
is this the
wingmaned me
go
once
with?
before.
Is this a leave alone?
Yeah. Look,
Yeah.
here's the thing, right? I'd say like maybe the journey there,
Mhm.
just to be safe, right?
Yeah.
But when we get close, Leeway might just be like, "Oh, wait a second, there's someone I need to visit over here." So,
So actually, the
Listen,
capital
it
city is
is-
a little bit further on, but her city
It-
is closer to the river, and you know, you wind up having a little, you know, Leeway will take the rest of the money, and you handle it
Yeah.
all. Yeah, you talk
It's
to
a
the people
victory
there.
tour.
Yeah,
It's
you
a
have little
victory tour,
Yeah,
Mhm.
you meet some people. You have a victory tour. And yeah, Lady Anshin Vrozgresny is very happy to see you, and she says, "My liege, it is an honor to see you." And she's got like a very she's arranged. She's like she's invited you to her garden, and she's got like a really nice tower, and she's there. And she's like, "It is a pleasure to see you." And she does this like gesticulation thing, but she kind of like holds her arm. And she's kind of like scooting. And you realize she's caught her sleeve on the table, and she's kind of like a pleasure to see. She's
This
trying
is
to do
wife
the big
material,
like
baby.
welcome, and she's like, "Fuck."
Yes. And I'm just all smiles, and I go over and help her unattach from
Shit.
it.
She blushes and she's like, "Oh, thank you, my liege. You are ever tending to the issues of Borm, from the matters of the coffers to the matters of collars and hems. But please, come, drink some of our fine imported dwarvish ale, and let us discuss the issues of the day. You've been on the road for so long." And she's very eager to ply you and talk to you and learn about what's going on, and to make clear that she's very, very loyal. It's just that there were people sacking her lands.
Yes.
And she didn't know where you were, and by the time she knew you were there, you had won.
So it would start off a little off. Like I would be like, it is, as always, you light up every room that you are in, lady, and it is my honor to be in your presence. I missed you upon the battlefield, though, right? And I would kind of let that hang for just a second, and then I'd follow it up with, "But I understand that you were being raided from the north," and I would know what lands those raiders come from. I understand that they were pushed upon you by half teeth, right? Everything. But where did these people come from?
She says, "They were a far and foreign Dworkin from the western side of the mountains. And the Dworkin are actually mostly humans, but they're a tribe of people who live on the mountains, who ride lizards, who are outside of the Empire, technically in dwarf territory, but the dwarves live underground, so they just kind of hang out there." And she says, "It was not our local Dworkin, although they did not ride to get involved either. I believe that they were mercenaries of some sort, paid to do this. They would often not even bother to take the loot, but they set what few fields we have to the torch. As you know, there is little grain in Borm. Cough, cough, one fertility."
And so I would tell her, I understand your plight now, and so have these raids ended with the ending of the uprising?
As soon as word of Halfteef's death reached these lands, they were gone. I suspect that they knew they weren't getting their next payment. I will say also, she comes up and she says, "My liege, some of my loyal Ritters and I, when we rode out to stop a raid, uncovered this." And she shows you a bit of a broken crate that has the emerald seal on it, and she says, "This was full of gold, I presume came from the treasury. I'm assuming your coffers are a little lighter. I think that when Half Teeth got in there, he started dispersing gold.
Perhaps our troubles are not over then.
Perhaps, but with him dead, I suspect that anybody who was loyal to his money is left.
That's true.
But I do feel for the border. Perhaps if we were to improve our infrastructure and have more hill forts out here, we would be able to stand better. I know Haravar has wanted to for some time, but he's not able to staff them after the huge losses the Red Line has suffered on the front at the Field of Silver and Gold, and now against these foes.
I'm sorry, did you say you need something built?
He says, well, if I happen to know a strong stonemason of great strength who cleaves to the tradition of defending the land. Yeah. So that conversation goes well.
Not any.
Yeah.
Flattery will get you everywhere. So the idea here, right? I want to make sure that this isn't just. I'm not like just frivolously coming up here. I mean, I have designs too besides what I'm saying. With the end of the battle, it's important for the realm to see their lord, right? It's important for the realm to understand that their lord is not somebody who is going to sit inside of a castle and order people to be poisoned, father. He is somebody who goes out and is checking things. How are things going out here? What is going on? So that is why I've drugged Leeway out of the castle. Unless Leeway gets me drunk, and then it's like I am totally going up here to say hello.
Yep. But you're seen as a man of the people, but people do know that you say hello to Lady Anshin of Rose Gresney.
So the goal here is I want to I have a couple of things that I want to do. I want to make sure that I don't push this out too far. I'm going to just kind of hit this up as a broad thing and broad strokes, and we can kind of talk about how that goes.
Absolutely.
I wanted to come up here. So border is important, right? And the fact that there was people raiding from the north indicates that the northern border is weak. The southern border was weak because the Golds are starting to push in.
Yeah. It's worth noting that Borm is one of the most surrounded by non-U provinces of all. Hotchretch, Eberland, and the Grange. None of them are presently hostile, but it's worth noting.
But they're going to be part of us someday anyways. So I would this is I'm going to broad stroke it real quick, and then we can talk about individual efforts and how this kind of goes into your system. Mm-hmm. I wanted to come up north to Borm. I wanted to say hello. I wanted to look at reinforcing our northern border. I want to come back through the river. This guy's going to get an earful and be told that, I want to find out why he wasn't there. And, we didn't get any letters. You knew that there was a battle going on, right? You knew that your lord needed you, and you just sat on your ass here. You have rivers. You can make it the fastest. Then we're coming down here to deal with this before we head back to the capital and allow. I don't need to go to the Snake Coast. Uncle can handle that. Yeah. But we're coming down here because something's going to happen.
Oh yeah, I bet something's going to happen here. So you two are on like a big river tour. You swing by. So Bate's manor has a huge angel statue and an interesting garden out back. It's on the outskirts of the city, which he doesn't control. That's where the viceroy is. They say hello. And he invites you in. He always wears his angel mask. And you give him an earful, and he says, "Of course, my liege. Had I received a command or a word of your lady mother's predicament, I would have flown at once to their defense." Left unsaid is the fact that he's like, "I ain't moving my army without orders from my liege," which is a statement that one can make, but you don't get this. I mean, this is the guy who ran in front of you to cut down 5 Theers when it was on the battlefield and you were charging in. So this is not a man who is slaked from fighting at your side or putting himself in danger. But he stays home until you give him the word. And if you happen to be out of the country, he's not Renho, he's not Gunter, he's not Pike, he's not taking the initiative to plunge in and do what you think would be best.
So,
but he will gladly pay all of the reparations that he's asked to in compensation. Zero complaint. This guy does not complain. He does not poo-poo. He's not afraid of you, but he's also in no way negative to you he gladly receives you and serves you tea, and you know you give him a dressing down about being a little bit of a little bitch, and he's like, of course, my liege. Like he doesn't take anything.
You're a little bitch.
He
Of
takes
course, my liege.
he takes Tenshi is a man who is a little weird because he wears the mask the entire time. To reiterate, this man is wearing an angel mask the entire time you meet him. Very serene, very chill, takes it all in stride, no hard feelings.
Okay, good. There would be no hard feelings for me either, right? With the all of the punishments, the executions, the dressing downs, you have paid your due.
Yeah.
Right? That is one of the
kept
things.
no Ritters from Zobate left. Zobate made it clear your ass is staying home, bitch. I didn't give you an order. And people who are his vassal take that seriously. So no traitors came from his territory either. Not
Okay.
one.
So I think then what would be mechanically, I think that we would take that in stride. And you know, I would mention that you were not here. We needed you. I understand what you're saying. And by the way, I want to go talk to Renho here in a little bit too, because
Yeah,
I got something to say to Renho. I love you. Thank you for killing everybody.
Yeah.
So they have a special material here, right? If you can remind me what that is.
Their high culture tradition is better at raising units.
Okay. Better at raising units.
You can use high culture tradition for any resource cost of a unit. So you don't need money if you're raising a high culture. You can just say, boom, pure tradition. And Twin River is a tradition-rich region.
Okay. So the fact that so this is what I'm thinking. Tell me mechanically how this goes. So if I tap them, I get the 4 tradition with
right now, because there is 1 strife, you get 3.
Okay. So this is my thought.
Mhm.
I think that because I'm having this conversation with him and how everything goes, and he's kind of the main one in this area aside from Renho, I would mark this down as I'm tapping this area to remove the strife and Twin River to show that we are united. I understand that you weren't there, but we are united once more. Like this is everything was understood and everything is good to go. So I would use the first of those to remove the strife and Twin River.
Mhm.
I would use the other 2 to raise troops.
All right. So we're talking about, do we want to go with that a replenishment of a unit that you have, or are you trying to raise a new unit?
So your Heartwood Piercers are what are his troops? I know that Renho's are the Dachi wielders.
Yeah.
But I can't
his
remember what
guys
Tenchi's are.
His guys are Butai Ritters. You could raise Butai Ritters with 3 tradition, but not 2. But you could get tradition from elsewhere. And yeah, they can do the mounted, they can do the sword, they can do the shoot. And yes, they're an option. You'd hire them straight into the Hearthspanner, but they come from his guys. That's an option.
Okay, so I think I would want to do that. I want those, but you're saying I need 1 more tradition, correct?
Correct.
Would I be able to?
You can't double dip on your capital. It's once you've used that slot for the year.
Okay, so it's this cap, this is, and this are 2 separate numbers then.
No,
I cannot tap those twice.
Sorry. That's just, I had to edit it. Imagine it says a 2 next to the house. So you
got it.
So you use that to clear Kwiats.
Okay, so this is perfect. So and this is tradition.
It is, but bear in mind, there's 1 strife over here.
Right, so it's only going to give me 1, which is absolutely perfect. So, what's this symbol? Sorry, I'm asking a bunch of questions. Fertility. Okay, even better.
It's fine.
Okay,
I told you there'd be a rule book, and there wasn't. This is on me. Don't apologize.
No, that's fine. So, is this for? So, okay, let's say I tap them because I'm gonna. This is in story context. I'm a very big story context. I'm not just gonna do shit because it's like, oh, the numbers say right. I got a story behind all of this, right?
Absolutely.
The fertility side. Can I convert that into tradition to basically get some of these Ritters? If I tap this section down here.
Yeah, so you mean yeah. You can absolutely put that into so you have so you could you mean spend fertility on the Ritters?
Yes.
Normally no, but I will say this: there's a special action you can take called a Grand Feast that attracts Ronin and minor Ritters who are landless. and this grand feast, you can hire them. So you could spend. It would be expensive. It would be 5 fertility, but
Okay. That would be all that fertility down there.
But it would hire a unit of heavy ritters.
Okay, so I want the Butai Ritters. That's the goal here.
Okay, so you want the Butai ritters.
Right. Okay, so I think I know how I'm going to do this. Okay, so I am going to, and Leeway, I am so sorry. I am doing so much talking, and I haven't asked you anything.
You're good.
I am so sorry.
We're going to talk about
please-
Leeway's trip after we
Yes,
handle this.
please don't murder me. Like Forlock is asking you to do. I don't know why that dude has it out for me. He just wants me dead. Probably because I pushed him off of a building in night shift.
Oh goodness!
So, I mean, you know what? That's what you get when you go out on a balcony and it's haunted. All right, so I'm gonna tap this one, but there's a story behind this, and so I'm gonna tap it for tradition, and I'm gonna use that last tradition not to remove the strife down here, but to get those Butai Ritters.
Oh, all
Okay,
right.
and so this is the story. So first, there's 2 things that happen here. So all is forgiven with Tenshi. I meet up with Renho, and I do the tea ceremony for her.
Oh, she's very she's very receptive, and she says, "You know, not since my late husband passed have I received so elegant a man in my house."
Ooh.
Oh,
Oh, jeez. And so I respond, you do me honor by having me in your home, and I would not be here if it was not for you. I owe you everything. And so I would have the tea ceremony for her. This is just me passing through as I need to show my respect to her.
Yeah, you're showing respect. Everyone sees.
Yeah.
Everyone knows she came through for you in the end, and they see you showing your respect.
Okay. So the last part of this trip, and then I need to give Leeway some time. Leeway
Absolutely.
needs some time. I got this last part of this trip on why I tapped this place and what's happening down here. So we make our last stop on the trip, and I make Scudder and Vergrave show up at the sawmill.
Okay. Yep. Jella von Vergrave arrives on her weird root horse, and Bayran Scudder is obviously nervous and arrives. Let me go to the mill. We have a map. As it happens, we have a map for this. Let me activate that real quick.
all right,
And,
all right.
And so I slap Scudder in the face and say, "Where were you when Gondor called for aid?"
Yeah, so you guys show up and they're both here. They both have their troops, and she kind of looks at him. He kind of looks at it nervously, and he says, "My liege, so good to receive you again." And the mill.
I just stare at him.
Yeah,
I literally say nothing, and I walk into the mill.
All right, Avelda the miller is here, and she looks up to see you, and she says,
Hey, the sound just came on. That's cool.
yeah, you can hear, yeah. Like, my liege. And Leeway, you've never been in the sawmill.
Oh, that's
I
right.
never
Yeah,
have.
take a walk, enjoy the
So
auditory
I completely ignore Scudder, right? And
Yep.
I bring Leeway and I say, brother, with the help of the people here, I built this as a young man while with me and Fazil before we went gallivanting off into the woods to meet some satyrs, believe it or not.
Ooh.
So this is one of the first things that I built, and I'm actually rather proud of it.
It has stood the test of time, my liege, the miller says proudly.
Yes. This
And it is good to see you.
And she finds her head.
excellent craftsmanship. Tell me, are those satyrs still around?
They should be, I believe, up north. And in fact, if you would like, we could stop by and see them before we head home.
Avelda the miller says, I believe they are passing through this season. She just talks what we're saying.
Oh.
News of your appointing of a court druid has had mixed reception, but I think it is a sign of stability in the region, and perhaps the beginning of new traditions, as well as rekindling of old. You know, she wasn't too big on the druid stuff when you first, started out, but
Yeah.
she seems to be coming around.
And that's good of you to see, because the people of the land are not just those who live in the cities. all of our people should be looked after. And that reminds me, you two, get in here now!
All right. Lady Jella von Vergrave walks in. She's got, tall riding boots and her armor on and her weapon at her hip. And she stands there. Lord Baron Skitter comes in. He leaves his, vassal outside. And you're in the mill. You're in the mill together. And they both incline their heads. And she kneels and says, "My liege."
And I say, Lady Beargrave, stand.
Of course.
I saw you upon the battlefield, and you honored me by being there.
Mhm.
Slowly, head turn
And she
towards Scudder.
says, "My liege, of course I wanted to come, but the roads, we were so beset."
Beset by what?
And he says, "Strange creatures and archers." And he looks at Jella as if to back him up, and she says, "It is true, there were some ambushes. However, my liege, that could not stop me from coming when my liege was in need." And Lord Baron Scudder's kind of like saying, "Well, I am further to the west, of course, but yes, it was difficult." And Jella actually goes ahead and says, "And what of the state of your boats?" And he was like, "Oh, well, we do have a few of those, but, Wotano, very powerful on the rivers." So did Wotano know what side you had joined? And he was like, "Well, of course, he knew I'd be loyal."
Silence! I am tired of hearing your mewling.
He's cowering. He's like, "Of course, my liege, of course."
I come to your lands when I was still a boy. I rid you of troubles that you had in your woods. I repaired with my own hands the mill that we stand in, and you repay me with treason, Scudder.
He's on fire. He's like terrified, but he doesn't say anything.
Lady Beargrave, you, on the other hand, I ignored, and I thought to be, for lack of better words, almost a villain. Somebody who would take advantage of the lands and the people around it, and yet you rode forth. So, Scudder, a woman that received no aid from me, rode forth into defense of her lord, while you sit fat upon the land and its people in my hospitality and care, and you disrespect me. You dishonor me.
And he says, "My lord, 1,000 apologies. And he doesn't have good. At this point, he's just kind of like trying to hold it together. He's pretty scared.
You would be better served to keep your mouth shut for now before I decide to go further than I will." And I look back to Lady Beargrave, and the voice kind of softens a little bit, and I say, "Lady Beargrave, I do not agree with many of the things that you want to do. I believe that you would be a better ruler of these lands, though. But we must have an agreement."
My
And
liege.
so I'm looking at her to see what she's doing.
She looks to you and she says, "My liege, I will tell you this. Though there are those who would paint me as a villain, there are things that I do that are not easy to dismiss. No, I have done everything from the day I, as a young girl, went out and slew the villain who cursed my father. I have always done it for loyalty and for love. I am told that we are to have a new coming of love in this realm, and I look forward to serving you in it."
I would remind you, Lady Beargrave, of the words of my household, that loyalty stands behind honor. Do not let reputation consume you, or you will lose your way.
She nods deeply.
I do not want the forest here destroyed to make way for farms. There are things out there and people out there that do not belong in a city.
She nods.
I would respect them and love them and make them a part of this realm as much as every other person. if you can agree to rein in your pursuit of expansion, I would put you in charge of these lands over this worm.
And he doesn't say anything, but like you can tell he's squirming like a worm. And she smiles, and she comes and she puts a hand on his shoulder, and she says, "I am sure in my able care the good Lord, former Lord Baron Scudder, can as a baron learn all manner of loyalty and honor, and I assure you, my liege, regardless of whether or not you grant me these lands, from this day forward, you have my word, I will not move forward without direct approval from your steward with any clearance of land or other major development. In this way, I will always know that it is in accords with your will that I go forth, and if it is not in accords with your will," she leans in really close to Baron's ear and says, "Not at all."
And so I look at Verigrave and I say, I would ask one more thing of you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, my liege.
I would ensure that Lord Scudder is given a household and his family has lands, but that he is not to rule here anymore.
And she says, "Ah, yes, well, there is a plot next to the keep that I think would make a fine manor for his wife and children, and he will have his incomes. But I'm sure that I can find someone better suited to answer all calls to action to rule here." And yeah, so you've demoted Lord Baran to Baron Scudder.
Yes.
This is a major action on the realm level, and people will not forget what you have done. At the same time, let's just say your opinion of Baran Scudder is not the only one that swings the way it does, and people have watched, the people have seen, that even if he doesn't like you, if you're a loyal servant, you know, you're going to get something, you know?
Exactly.
And
that was the goal here.
Yeah. It's worth noting, you only have one other Soul Lord province, so you've pumped her up, and you can tell she's like afterwards, like Lord Baron's got her kind of like goes, Baron goes like cry in a corner, and she says, like as your way out, she said, "My liege, a word, a moment. You have ruled justly, not just because it is in my favor, but because you reinforce the strength of the land and loyalty." And she takes your hand and kind of like makes like she's gonna like kiss the ring, but kind of like sex, like, is it cool? And like if you're cool with it, she does it, and like, and
oh
she
yeah,
says,
I totally let it. We accept all stuff in this kingdom.
Yeah.
Like, this is we don't have a masculine or feminine kind of like, this is the way things are. Everyone is treated equal in my realm.
Absolutely, she's here for it, and she says,
somebody wants to kiss my hand, they totally can.
"Yeah, you and your handsome and competent brother Li Wei have truly graced this realm. I am concerned about these ambushes that occurred. I will work strongly with the Viceroy that your father has installed, for great loyalty to him on the field, to ensure that this is a province where the roads are safe and moderation reigns. At your leave, my liege, do I go forth. And so as you command this realm, so too do you command love. May your regime of love reign over every heart in the Emerald Vale, and let their fertile valleys prosper and blossom." And so she's looking you and Li Wei down, and she's real fucking happy to have you here. And she's like, they got some whiskey too if you want it for the road. They got the
I was
whiskey.
just thinking that Leeway. I was like, those fertile valleys, huh?
I mean, let's just say, "so happy I could kiss you" is maybe the beginning of the description of what she's feeling right now.
There's always a time to plow the fields.
Yep. So, either you could roll insight if you want, but I think that this is more or less how it goes. His ass got demoted. She and Boyar Zdan Thorslava are the only two sole lords of their provinces, putting them in very strong positions.
Yes.
As long as they're loyal, they can wield that power in your favor.
I kind of that my understanding from my notes, which is like 8 or 9 pages, was on that. That was my plan.
Yep.
Right. I needed to install somebody strong here because it is a single lord area, and she is strong. And I think it's a good idea to, as you said, and somebody is being installed here that I didn't agree with. Right. But it's not. Do not want sycophants.
Yeah.
I want loyal followers who think for themselves, who are strong leaders, and can set forth.
Yeah, loyal. Vio will later comment, "My liege has set a dynamic footing for the realm through his actions, showing that it is not merely agreement, which leads to reward. And you are not plain favorites. This has been remarked upon by the people." So, Li Wei, you go on the other trip as well. Li Wei, you want to roll me an insight as you travel? You're seeing the world. You're seeing more and more of the world. At first, it was you've left the city for the countryside. Now you've left Kriotz for the country and everything else.
Free.
Who's to say what insights you get?
Oh, come on!
You meet,
It's your one time, Leeway!
So Leeway, you meet a lot of people. You meet a lot of people.
Great.
You meet a lot of things. Some people come up to you and they say, "You're Leeway," and after like a few conversations, they're like, "And I hear that you do a lot of business in Old Town. Now that the old guards moved out, I wonder what business is like there." And you know what they're saying is the old guard was the gang that was backed by the Ritters of the area before they got cleaned out in Sigrun's sweep with the crackdown, right?
Yeah.
They're asking you, so got any crime plans? A lot of as soon as Yannick's not around, they're like, so how about the crime, buddy? What's the general response here, Leeway? Because you're in a position to build a bit of a network.
I'd say at this point, especially with the seeing the power of the flame and feeling, I mean, Leeway nearly died in that fight against like when we were defending the flame, keeping it from being taken. So I imagine that Leeway has changed his tune a little bit. He's reached a point where he's steward. He's up. He's so far up beyond anything he ever could have dreamed of. And he's backing off a little bit as far as like those like financial ambitions. Yeah. So when people suggest crime, he says, you know what? I don't think so. Not anymore.
And well, you've gotten out of the game. Good for you. You should quit while you're ahead, I always say. Not that I'll follow my own advice. And they make their way. But you do meet one Scordian with one eye patch who says, "I'm not so interested in money, but information. If you and I do business, I can help keep your liege informed. Once, the Zilfog, who would have overrun these lands, were slaughtered by Sigrun, because his spy master Svez had the intelligence, and Sigrun had the will to act. We have seen Sigrun has the will to act, but Svez is dead. I ask information for information. It will never be to the detriment of your lord." And this one-eyed Scordian is a Viking-looking motherfucker. He's offering you not let's do crime in terms of like let's smuggle, but he's asked some little shady. He's like, information for information. I'll help build your network.
Right. Okay. I mean, he said never to the detriment of my lord. So yeah, I'm
Absolutely.
on board.
Yeah, so you strike a little chord, and let's just say, you start to get the odd hello from strangers on the street, kind of, give you a little information every once in a while. A little letter finds its way to your windowsill every once in a while, and that is going to matter quite a bit.
Okay.
But you guys have your big trip. You got that Koyalden whiskey with you. You're heading downriver. Umido is there, and he writes to you and says things are good with the Viceroy here. We think that we have the situation well in hand. Although, the troops are a good show of force, we think that the rain has died down. And, this is the end of summer. So summer comes and goes. You guys spend some time, and you get a love letter, Yannick. And so do you, Leeway.
Whoa.
Yeah, you both.
It's not from the same person, is it? Brother against brother, for the love of a woman.
No, but they are from the same family. So
Twins, baby!
Alida von Boss and Hilda von Boss both write you letters describing how their father was at the Field of Silver and Blood, the battle from, like the first part of Through Fire and War, right? Where your dad died. Like, they saw how you guys gloriously rode to the enemy camp and how Voidbender was struck down and your heroics, and how they've swooned and fawned and how nearly fainted upon their couches and had to receive the smelling of salts to be resuscitated after this, imagining such a deed. And to meet you would be so lovely. And, I do love vacationing in my family's boat, and also you could come and join us at our humble manor in Riats. And Vio comes up and says, "My good gentlemen, it is worth noting that those are the daughters of a minor yet very wealthy urban ritter in Riats. He does not hold any stigma against mercantile nature, and thus he has made great coin in trade. I believe he is attempting to deploy his daughters to secure an alliance of sorts. For though he is minor, he has great significance in Riats. Riats is an allodial city-state due to its previous status as an imperial capital. I'm given to understand from your histories, all previous imperial capitals become cities direct. Their ruler is so powerful as to be akin to the emperor within their borders. Additionally, I have reason to believe the Gold Rose were partially behind the funding of Halfteef. I don't think Halfteef was witting. He wanted to fight them, but they saw him as just another cog in the collapse of the machine. So, it's at this juncture I must ask you for something. Money. I am at a crucial juncture. Svez's assets, double agents, far to the north and south, east and west, all over, are beginning to reach out or try to reach out, and without Svez in place, without the arcane ears he once had, there's no way for me to reach them. I'm going to need to make some noise, and I'm going to need to do some deeds, and the faster I do them, the stronger the spy network I reconstitute initially will be. The money you invest now will be more potent than at any other point, for as you can imagine, a Ritter who is the bonded man of the Golden Rose, who goes once every other moon day to drop off a note behind a berry bush, will, upon noticing his last note has not been collected, swiftly decide to never travel there again. You take my meaning. And you do remember you once walked in, both Yannick and Li Wei, you walked in on Svez talking to Sigrid and saying, our man down south with the Golden Rose, before noticing you guys. You know that he had at least one double agent down there. And he has a good point. Like, imagine the Cold War. You show up for your dead drop and the CIA hasn't selected picked up your last message? Whew! You are fucking out the port of Vladivostok like nothing. Ain't no one finding you. So, yeah, this is a crucial moment in the strength of your spy network. And he's basically asking however much wealth you're willing to spend. Right now, you only have Borum standing, although I'd worth its note 4.
I know. I was looking at that.
You got 5 in the treasury after the looting. Your dad left you a pretty big treasury, and they spent over half of it.
So I would ask, what? I understand that there is an amount of. You know what? No, that's not who I'm going to ask.
Yeah, who do you go to?
I'm going to look at Li Wei.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, Li Wei, we have this amount in the treasury. This what is that? 5 up here.
Yeah, 5. Uh-huh.
And Borum still has work to be done. I want to take some of the funds. I'm willing to ask them for taxes to begin building up the border, but I can pull some of those funds to help build this spy network.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is a reasonable amount of money to pass on to our spy master to have this happen?
So, Li Wei, you got some insights into how criminal organizations work, and that gives you some insights into how spy networks work.
Okay.
You think that if you invest 1, you will reconstitute something of a spy network. It will get you some leads, but it will not
Okay.
be resilient. If you
Okay.
invest about 3, you'll have a decent spy network. It'll get the drop on some enemy spies. It will get you some good intel. It'll have some lucky breaks. If you get 5, depending on where Svez was and what VO can do, you could have a well-oiled intelligence machine. That's the kind of
Okay.
machine you feel that's delivered Sigrun the killer intel that resulted in the slaughter of the Scourds.
Right.
If you invested closer to 8, well, your man's been talking about greater ambitions, and that's the kind of spy network, and it's going to take longer and way more to invest in if you invested in any future point. That's the kind of spy network that gets someone close to the throne. Not on the throne, but close to the throne. Because the eye of Empire is in Auden, and you need to start spreading wide. For that, you need a good, beefy network for that, to support that. And they got the best spies and the best stabbers in Auden.
Right.
So-
Okay. I mean, I would definitely like explain all of that to Yannick. I mean, in this case, Leeway's like knowledge is going to be just an open book to Yannick. I'd say Leeway is probably going to say, I know that we might not be able to afford it necessarily, but I think, and mechanically pushing towards the 5 range, he'd say those two daughters, those 2 who sent the letters. I would hate to tie you to anyone, but maybe if I paid them a visit, we might be able to secure a little bit of financial assistance from their father.
I'm just looking at Leeway like wow. Wait, like I don't say this, but in my head I'm like, wow, way to throw yourself upon the sword, dude. You are. This is why I named you brother. Like you could just see this. Like it's trying not to smile, right? Like it's so hard trying not to smile. I gotta keep this straight, Yannick face. Like this is why it's canceled, brother. Like, but in my head I'm like, wow, what a bro. So this is what I would say. So were we able to do anything to the for Borm yet with the how I wanted to spend some time there?
If you so you spent some time that you've heartened the people's spirits, people get a strong sense. If you want to literally invest in a stronger border network,
yes,
you're going to need to spend double the infrastructure you have right now in that province too, and it's going to take a year. There are things you can do to speed that up, like send agents, but that's the current situation.
Beautiful. So then I would be telling Lady Gresny that this is the beginning, right? We are going to begin to build, but I may call upon you to help build up what's going on right now because your lands are well funded. So I would make sure that Gresny knows that she's my favorite, though. I'm sorry, man. The klutzy the klutzy wizard just I'm sorry,
stealing hearts.
It's so adorable, man. It's just like it's so cute. It's just I don't know if she would make the mother for the warriors that I know are going to be coming later, but I don't know. She just Anyways, so
the heart grows fonder. All right, so
I would say we're going to. I would take Leeway's advice, but I have ambition, and I am young, and I'm not exactly the most thriftiest individual, and that's probably going to be a problem down the road. Out of character, I know it's not the smart decision. In character, though,
this is what
Yannick would be tapping Borm.
Who is best at games? Sometimes you got to go all in.
That's right. So if you remember, Lady Renho said to think about when or always strike at the best or the correct time.
Strategy.
And I think grandfather would appreciate a very forward notion. So I will be taking leaving 1 in the coffers and putting the 8 into. So you want to be emperor.
Okay,
someday.
so
Oh my
Um,
gosh!
Vio says, "My liege, they come next month from Abzaryin with the first of the shipments to open trade, and I will have word below and above, and soon the network will be as Arachna's web, and as she dances upon the loom of fate, will the deeds of your agents shape the color of Rosa Bay, in a stately emerald rose green, my liege. And I do this knowing you are a just man. I do not do this out of greed. I pay myself nothing. You are a singular individual, Yannick Emerald. I have lived for hundreds of years, and I may live for hundreds more. But I will hedge whatever hundreds I have left before the Fae catch me on riding this with you and your descendants to the end. On this, you have my word." And he disappears, as does a lot of fucking money.
As does a lot of money.
It's disguised as like beautification projects and war reparations. There's a lot of gold flying out of the treasure anyway, and he makes it all look real natural. Vorian knows what's happening because Vorian is like money man, and he doesn't. He's like, yep. And yeah, you get people showing up every day saying, I was a loyal spy for you. And I had no idea that it was Fez, and I got the letters, and people are telling all sorts of strange ways that they were being contacted. People up and down the coast. You're bringing in more people. You're expanding the people. The tower that houses them, you have 24 people. 24 people in like smart blue scholars, like kind of like get-ups who cast who cast like the messages. Like a cryptographic like library is in that tower now, and you have guys, you know what they look like. Nobody else does. They're walking around. They're casting arcane ear, and within a week, someone has come and said, Vio comes to you and says, "Intercepted a communication headed south. Best we could decipher it, and we did have triangulation from 3 different people, so we got almost the entire message. It looks like they're waiting until spring. Then they'll attack the Snake Coast. They won't come if your forces are there fully, but they're not going to send enough people to take your army. It's a narrow thing, my liege, but you do have an opportunity to catch them out. The Golds say they're sending their heaviest hitter. They didn't spell out who it was." And
so,
yeah.
I before this all happened, by the way, whenever I gave the money,
Mhm.
I would tell Leeway, I would say, right now I have no other heirs. If I die, you take over. I want you to understand that I will always listen to your counsel, and sometimes I will make decisions on my own. It's nothing against you.
Yes.
I feel now is the time to push. I am not a spy. I am not an intelligent man. I can fight and I can yell a lot. I needed a very strong network, and I want you to be a part of that network. So I want you to, if you will, I give you no order now. You are my equal. I give you no order. I would appreciate it if you would be a part of that network and keep with Vio.
Yes.
And in
Of
fact,
course.
within the week, Leeway's connection with a certain one-eyed Scourge, who has moved in to do business in a tavern in downtown Gatach, in the harbor, as it turns out, you start to get rumor that there will be Scourge raids starting up next year as well, as they're beginning to see free. Not only that, they say there's something happening to the north. The Scourge are starting to get scared. Some of them might be trying to leave.
Okay.
But yeah, the network is actually a little bit stronger because of that connection that got made. So this is the best possible network you could have at this point. Everything from Spez has been rebuilt. Everything's exploded out, expanded. It's very dynamic. Everyone is looking to Yannick, knowing, yeah, as long as I'm loyal to this system, even if he doesn't like me, because they saw what happened with Jella. So it's all coming together.
So with this thing to the south, I feel like we're getting to an end point, but I wanna talk to you a little bit about this because I want to grow. Like, this is my goal is to build a kingdom that my children can inherit, that they can continue to grow, and we can get this unity out there, right? Because division is why we falter. It's unity. Like, we can be. And so you can tell that these folks to the south, the Golds, I will try to work with the Sun, but I want them to learn that while the forward hand is open, the backhand is a closed fist. If they don't accept the open hand, they get the closed fist, followed by an open hand as well. And so, knowing that they're going to attack, I would want to begin to talk to my commanders and my most loyal. So, Gunter, Pike,
My liege.
uncle, and I would say, I have a plan that I don't have a plan. I have an idea. I would like to draw the Golds into combat and shove it up their ass when they don't expect it.
Yeah.
So we know an attack is coming. I want them to fall into the Snake Coast, and we come up their tailpipe and smash them between a hammer and an anvil. We have armies hidden to the north and an army hidden to the south, and we pincer them, we eliminate them, and we let them know that the Emeralds are not somebody to be trifled with.
All right. So you talk to them. The main thing is you're not going to be able to tap their full force without it being obvious, but they all say they'll bring an honor guard of their best and invent a reason, and they'll arrange themselves. And people are still recovering from the war, but they're all very... You go to Pike, Weirund, and Masayoke, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, Lady Renho. Yes, please. You are every single war council that I have.
Of course.
Lady, I look at my most trustworthy individuals as Lady Renho, Margrave, Gunter, Pike, and my uncle. I believe those are my most trusted individuals. I would throw Gresny into there, but I don't know yet. I'm in love with her, totally in love with her, but I don't let love cloud my war vision.
Fair. All right. So here's what happens, right? You're setting that up. That's going to be next spring.
Okay.
Fall comes around. Hey, you guys made all those friends down there? Well, good news. Vorian says, my liege, it seems that there's been a trade deal that you made while you were under the surface. Blink. +1 wealth in the treasury as trade starts up with Absarine.
Oh,
Things are
yeah.
starting to go pretty well, yeah. Overall, it's the 4th of September. Stuff goes well. Otherwise, so like all your stuff is tapped. You'll have to double tap if you want anything other than like some of your capital influence, but nothing bad happens. You don't have to do anything. You can just keep going forward. And correct me if I'm wrong. You bought those Butai Ritters, right? You hired them.
Yes. So I used the one tradition from Koyalda, and coupled with the leftover tradition from Twin River.
All right. Here's the thing. Your network is so fucking good that Vio says, would my liege like to see the spot where, in 2 seasons' time, he will defeat his enemy?
Indeed.
And he says, it is good that you have made grand investment then. Come. We're on a trip to the Snake Coast. And, so you guys hop on, right? And, let me stage this a lot differently than I thought I was going to be doing.
Sorry.
No, never apologize for giving me the time of my life, sir. So yeah, y'all three roll up. Another fine trip of leeway, and Vio and Yannick arriving at a battlefield. But this time, rather than being thrust into a battle and not knowing what the fuck is going to happen, right? Because you're there and it's happening. This time, you arrive at the village of Stone Serpent Bridge, one of the places that was, harried but had never been hit in the raids. And I remember to turn on you arrive at night, and then the light begins to bloom. So, Vios, you see, this is a humble town. 100 or so people live here. It's pretty big by Snake Coast standards. And Vio says, This is the field, my liege. We think that we have very good reason to believe they'll be coming in here. Our inside men with the gold rose indicate they're intending to have a walking war to the south. They've already arranged to take control of that province the moment that the end to war is ended in spring. Then, late spring, early summer, they'll begin a raid in earnest. They're hoping to strike a devious blow against us. It's important to note that there is presently a blood feud injunction against open war between Emerald and Gold. However, if we catch them in the act, they would be found of violating an imperial peace. Evidence, at this point, my liege, is the most important thing we can get. An important prisoner, other evidence collection. From there, we go to the magistrate in Riats, and, like that, we will have our issue handled. They'll be caught red-handed on your lands. You may even be given license to act in kind, while they are punished. So, he looks at Li Wei and Yannick and says, and of course, I couldn't have learned all of this without Li Wei and his associates. And I have a question, Li Wei. So as you're thinking about this, and you're surveying the land, you're thinking about what you're going to do when you get home. Gatach is worth 0 money. You can get 0 money out of Gatach every year. You don't have to tap your capital city, so that's kind of like an income you're leaving on the table. You know that even though it's a profitable port city, it's kind of overlooked, but also there's a deeply embedded crime network, right? Or not, like, the old guard has been ripped out, but other forces that you know of have moved in, and you know that you could push back against that and get more of it for the state, but you're going to make enemies. So, Matt, as you think about it, you could, however, without getting involved for money, again, turn to expanding this network. So, Li Wei, I don't know if you mentioned this to Yannick or not, but you're jogging noggin thinking, do I try and get more intel? Do I make enemies but try and make Gatach an actually profitable city? Because we need, soldiers work for money. We need to equip people, we need to feed people, we need coin.
Right.
And you're just here in this village, and you see these humble people of the Snake Coast living their simple lives. Someone looks up and says, it's Yannick Emerald. And a man with one eye comes out, and he says, it's the commander. You led us when everything else was lost. Oh my goodness, come, eat. My dear, get the rice porridge with the finest silverware. It's Yannick Emerald. And there's a bit of a commotion. Vio says, well, it should seem as if though we have some veterans here as well. And, you feasted, and everything you could want to know about the surrounding area is completely at your disposal, Yannick. And you are in the company of friends and loyal soldiers. And, Li Wei, you're thinking about it. You're thinking about what you're going to do when you get home. But, what do you guys think you do here, say here, as you face the coming battle that you know is going to arrive?
I would look to Li Wei first.
So, this is where we're going to win. And as far as like the people around here, do we question, does it seem like they would get caught up as far as when we get everything arranged, when we set up for combat?
So here's your intelligence. The enemy has been cultivating information about passage through the Snake Coast. It's hard to move through the Snake Coast. It's extra hard to move through with cavalry, but it's not impossible. There was a good opening here across the bridge. It's very muddy, but if they're not going up against opposition, it could let them hit by surprise. You think the enemy plan of battle is to make a big noise as they approach the bridge, catch any resistance there, and flank across the fords that go over this muddy islet.
Okay.
In that fashion, they'll catch any defenders in the pincer, but honestly, they're not expecting defenders. They're expecting some levy and maybe the local lord at best. Although now they know that you have soldiers stationed in this province, so they're going to be a little bit more wary. It's possible that the better you upgrade your defenses publicly, the more reserved they come. It's possible the attack won't come at all, which could be preferable. But then again, so could catching the enemy.
Right.
But now you're playing with lives.
Yeah.
Leeway.
Yes, my lord.
I would hear your thoughts on everything. I would hear your thoughts on everything. I will tell you mine, and then let us come up with a plan.
I'm concerned that with our plan to ambush and surround and take them out, that this area, the people here, the innocents here, would be in danger. If we were to fortify, we likely would not be able to execute that plan. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure what we can do to not tip off the enemy and also not endanger the people here who've made their lives here.
May I tell you my thoughts?
Of course.
If you look, there are veterans here, people who have fought with us before. These are hardened people who have seen war and understand that sacrifices must sometimes be made. What I propose is this. When I was young, there was a windmill that you've got to visit. Actually, I'm sorry, not a windmill, but a water wheel that you actually got to visit. And when the river flows, it has a tendency during a storm to back up areas. I would say that we would take time to build up a debris layer here and here that looks natural to keep this area from being taken or being traversed by the enemy. And so doing so, number one, keeps them from suspecting that there's an attack here.
Mm-hmm.
And forces them into a bottleneck in this area. Bridges are one of the most dangerous and deadly areas. I share your concern with the people. And what I would say is that we leave the warriors, anyone who would be willing to fight, here in the town, and we evacuate their families north. We know the enemy is coming through here. If we were to build too big of fortifications, they might use something else. If we leave the veterans here, people who are willing to fight, I would ask them to act surprised upon seeing the individuals coming and to begin to fight. We would leave weapons here for them to use. Now, when this happens, this group will be forced to come across the river this way. Any troops that were trying to come from this western area would have to come around to the north or to the east. When our troops in here begin to rain arrows upon them, begin to set up hasty formations, we would have our ridders hidden in the forest here. We would have archers hidden in the forest here and here. And that's when they would begin to strike. We would also have troops stationed in these households here, here, and here, that when they began to try and force their way through the ambush, they could come out and begin to fight. The people who are here would suffer casualties, not their families or their loved ones, but they will. There is little doubt that they will suffer casualties. They will be in disarray, and I would ask them to be in disarray. It will spur these people forward, thinking that it's an easy victory. And so they will suffer casualties. That is the nature of warfare. And given that they're veterans, I think they would understand that. But by drawing them in and forcing them through one point, we would have individuals stationed in such a way that we could rain hellfire upon them and decimate their entire group, while keeping the civilians, the individuals who are not committed to warfare, safe.
Wow.
Yo doesn't say anything, but he has that approving look in his eye. And yeah, when you get back, you come back from this trip. Von Ortel greets you, and he says, "Ah, mine lieges, it has been a good trip you've had. I take it." And Vio says, "Of course. Thankfully a season of peace." And Von Ortel says, Spring, summer, fall, winter. What we have grown, what we eat, what we burn, what we sow, what we reap. In the end, it all comes out on the battlefield. I think you will find, my friend Vio, they are all the seasons of war. And with that title drop, I
Oh,
believe
snap.
that's
Nice.
that's it. I think, yeah, I'll have more to say to these boys after, but I think that we've had a very fun meditative session. And,
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say we're gonna go say hello to Steam Still Murder. They're doing a little D&D as well, I believe.
Cool.
And it's always a pleasure to have my players here. Don't forget, if you want advice like how to do romance and RPGs, Matt, Matt, Improv and RPG. Might have a cool
you.
video about that. Don't forget, TTA. You want games? Check them out. You get Judge Wolf game. You get Everybody Games. Lovely collective, wonderful group of people, constantly coming out with that content from all sorts of angles. They've got a what night is Mecha Cthulhu?
Oh, Tuesday this week, our finale.
Oh yeah,
Putting the battle helmet back on.
Oh yeah, Mecha Cthulhu Tuesdays. Check out Yannick has he's got an amazing Jaeger suit on, so check that out. We're gonna go raid, but it's always, as always, a pleasure. And remember, whether you are building your defenses, sowing your crops, building your network, or trying to make peace, all these too will be consumed in time, for these are all, in their own way, the seasons of war. Alright, we're raiding. By the way, I hated that name up until today.
Up until today.
Because
Oh my
I thought it was
gosh.
dumb. I thought, well, that's inaccurate.
Ah,
I
it's
want
good.
the rail management to be, about, everything. I'm ready. And,